Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 15th meeting of the Richmond Selectboard. Do we have any public comment? Sure. Come on up, Paige.
Paige Galita, Richmond, Vermont. I would like to comment on the Richmond Town Attorney David Roux. As I have sat in select board meetings over the past year and listened to agenda items on ethics training for Richmond employees, I find it interesting that he is not held to the same standards. There have been many times when he has added unnecessary jabs toward the Southview 3-acre homeowners, which in my opinion are only meant to annoy, divide, or instigate. There's no reason for this, and we should not be treated this way. As one of my neighbors stated perfectly, I feel like the town attorney is pitting us against the town when we are in fact the town and certainly deserve more respect than we're getting. He also advised the town to abandon the NOI for the Southview 3-acre stormwater permit in 2023, which has caused direct harm financially and emotionally to those that live in the 3-acre sites on Joan, Westdale, Southview, etc. roads. Ignoring the demands from the state of Vermont per his legal advice did not make this problem go away. What it did is put us in jeopardy. What it did is put us in a time crunch, which has cost more money and could potentially make us lose the $49,990 in ARP grant funds. This would affect all Richmond taxpayers, but especially the 48 unfortunate homeowners in the Southview 3-acre area. The town has also admitted they did not put the engineering out to bid because of this time crunch. And per my research, the firm hired is one of the most expensive ones to work with, therefore costing more money to everyone. I was also under the impression that spending over a certain amount is required to be put out to bid. I understand Mr. Roux is hired to protect the interests of the town of Richmond, but his advice has directly harmed Richmond taxpayers who pay his salary, and it has left us with encumbered properties facing potential fines from the state of Vermont and potential liens on our properties. He has also made inaccurate statements in select board meetings about the costs we are facing, way under what the expected costs are, and our ability to apply for grants. His overall attitude is that we have done something wrong. I encourage the select board and the town of Richmond to find different representation that will treat those who pay his bills with respect and who will give better legal advice that protects the town as well as the residents of Richmond who pay for his services. Keeping him in your employ validates his unethical behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Garrett?
It's very hard for me to come back to this room or to be out and about in the community that I grew up in. For the first time in my life, I've experienced fear coming to a meeting in the community or speaking publicly. It's important to continue to shine light on what's going on in our community and town government. I'm sorry if I get emotional, and I'll try to hold it all in. I'd like to take my time and apologize to the select board if you've ever felt I was rude or bullying. I think you have mistaken my passion for rudeness, and that was never my intent. I'd like to remind you that I have admitted publicly to you when I've been wrong, and I've also thanked and recognized you and staff when I felt you had a wonderful thing, you have done a wonderful thing for our community. Caitlin's not here. I don't know, is she online, Josh?
We don't see her.
Caitlin has a new job. She better attend to tonight. So,
but I want to thank her. I can't thank her enough for recognizing, supporting, and calling out an unwarranted attack on me. Yes, a female in this community. I might project strength, but I'm human, and it's taken a lot of time and work to heal, to forgive everyone's role in this attack. I'd like to thank Carol Adams, who has labeled me as an attentive questioner since high school. Yes, I agree, but with one correction on her comment. It's been all my life, not just since high school. and I wear that label with honor. As I sit here, I'm watching to see how you all react to what I'm saying. If you are open to interacting with the community members that challenge you to be open, yes, now is a time for growth. Let me be clear. There was no justification for the attack on me September 15th, just because I'm an attentive questioner or that we don't always agree on topics, as you like to say. I beg you to please help to stop the spreading of hate for both individuals and groups. I do not hate you nor anyone else in this community, but I felt hate toward me that day. It was extremely hurtful how this was all made about how we all make mistakes and can grow from them. If this was a physical attack, would that have changed your approach? He chased me screaming to my car in the parking lot. I was very shaken and still am. I'm not here for just me, myself. And whether you believe that or not, that's on you. For many years, I've expressed to the select board meetings, people are afraid of the local government officials and staff. There is plenty of proof with this one experience that people don't dare post on Front Porch Forum condemning this behavior. People don't dare write to the select board condemning this behavior. The limited people that came forward felt a level of fear to speak out. Do you think that was because 100% of this community wants me to stop asking questions or commenting on topics? I truly don't believe that that was intentional on the select board or on the staff. But even if maybe 10% of this community are 100% afraid of the town or how the staff or the select board will talk about them and spread rumors or possibly attack them at a meeting, you just unintentionally enforce the fear through interactions with me. I am not here to add to the fear nor to scold you for your part, but be a part of a solution. I do not want to be the proof they should be afraid. All I ask is that you look within and acknowledge your role in instilling this fear and work with all of the community to heal. Here are some ideas on how to actually welcome communities that are standing in front of you physically, virtually, however they may be. Please stop texting each other during meetings when people are speaking. That's a fact. That happens. Please stop writing notes on notepads and passing to select board members beside you. Please take a moment and open your mind to those wanting to be a part of this community and encourage their participation, even if you don't agree with them. Please rewatch meetings where community members are cut off if they don't agree with your point, or they are talked over by you repeating your opinion. This discourages and makes people feel unwelcome, and also why bother? And this has not just happened to me. Encourage people to feel welcome by your body language and eye contact when people are speaking. I want to thank you for doing that right now. You haven't always done that. I appreciate that. Make decisions based on people outside those who feel comfortable enough to speak to you as a friend. Lastly, I'd like to do a call out to some people in the community. And I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly. I'd like to let Brad Elliott know I do have a heart, and it breaks for this community that supports attacking others. I need to apologize to Paige Coletta. There you go, you took your jacket off. I was looking for your jacket, I apologize. If my comments saying Southview neighborhoods or Riverview Commons are neighborhoods with means, I'm sorry. It was not taken as I'm sorry if you took it as a hurtful statement. It was not meant that way. Patty Burchett, I know you told me to my face, the all are welcome sign is not for me, but I'm hoping you misspoke and encourage you to open your heart to all in our community. June Heston has noted I'm a thorn and can frustrate select board members. These are her thoughts. But she has never once made me feel I wasn't welcome and always acknowledged my love for this community was strong. I'm still not comfortable staying tonight, and I still don't feel welcome, but I'm working on it.
Thank you, Kara.
Kara? Any further public comment? Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? On to, oh, on to our main agenda. Our first item is to consideration of appointing someone to fill the vacancy currently on the select board. So we've had two applicants. And we have Matt Moulthrop, Greg Rabidoux. I think our plan historically was to interview both in public session and then consider doing a very brief executive session to contemplate, and then we would make the appointment in public. Are you both comfortable with that? Does that work? I think all the letters that were submitted were posted online, right?
Yep.
Mary?
Yeah, very cool. The applicants may not be comfortable with it, but there's really no need to go into executive session because it's not a contract. These are not town employees. It is not a town employee situation. Anything that you have to say to query the candidate must be done in public. To deny us that is to deny all the information from these folks that have come before you. You need to be open and honest. There's nothing by contract. You're not talking with it.
Just clarify that we would not invite the two candidates into that executive session. It would be select board only. So there would be no information from.
Not the point.
Okay.
You don't need to go to an executive session for this.
Okay, I think history has shown
Let it
that
go.
precedent is different, so. How do we want to start? Do we have order?
What's that?
Alphabetical?
You want to
or-
go? Alphabetical is probably fine.
Matt, would you like to come up and?
Sure.
It took me a second. I had to make sure I got the alphabet correct. So. You want to, I think, did everyone have a chance? I mean, we all had a chance to read your letter. Do you want to give the public a brief synopsis or make any more statements or?
I've been a Richmond resident since the day I was born. I think most people know that the Moulthrop family is pretty large portion of the population, or was at one point. So we've got a long history here, and I want to continue. You know,
The guy that's.
I've had past or other relatives serve for the town of Richmond, and I feel like it's my turn to step up and help out, do what I can for town.
Great. Does it, is there any questions for Matt? Anyone in the public have any questions, comments? Anyone online? We did receive a number of letters of support. Fortunately for both candidates, we didn't receive any letters advising us to not appoint any individual candidate, which was nice.
That is a
It's
good
great.
thing.
Yeah, it's really very glad everyone was positive. So
Yes.
yes, do you want to bring up his letter? Or did everyone have a chance to review it? I mean, I don't know. This is my first time doing this, so I'm kind of limping through it.
So, Mark, I
Yeah.
think just due diligence, we should ask some questions like, you know, schedule wise, are there any concerns about schedule for both the meetings and the preparation for meetings?
Well, I haven't served on it, the select board previously, so I don't know what the preparations for the meeting are. I did get Josh's email Friday, and I did go over the outline. So I am prepared if I am chosen to sit on the select board tonight. But I work 4 10-hour days. I work till 5:30. I have time to get home in time to make it for 7 o'clock meetings. So I do have a busy family at home, but they are more in supportive of me doing this. So I feel I have the adequate time to
I'm sorry, I don't really know what I'm doing.
So one follow-up question for the uninitiated, you should know that we also have a Water-Sewer Commission that meets an hour
I've
earlier.
noticed, I have since I ran against Adam couple of years
Couple years ago?
ago.
I'm around there, yeah.
I have sat on or either been in person or online more meetings than I have not been. So I am keeping current on the town.
It's probably the
politics.
best way to know kind of what you would be in for, right?
Yes, so I am aware of that there is additional duties, we call that in the military.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it requires 3 select board members to be sitting on that commission.
We've been here since 5.
That is a little hard for me, seeing how I work till 5:30, but
Hear that?
Yeah.
one, yeah, depending on that.
I don't have any more questions. Do you, David? Do you have anything? Bart?
Sure, I'll ask another one. I appreciate your letter and description here, but verbally, what would you describe as your strengths? What do you bring to the select board?
My strengths, I would say I gotta refer back to my military training as a warrant officer. They've taught me to look at the second and third effects of things. And the way that was explained to me is, you gotta look beyond the initial problem. You gotta look to see, okay, is this problem gonna create more problems down the road? So you gotta look 2 or 3 steps ahead to see and try to fix those before they become problems. So, I mean, like the speed bump issue that we've had on Cochrane Road, I know it's been talked about a lot. You put all these speed bumps on a Cochrane Road, now traffic is getting rediverted through town, and that was one of the discussions in the select board meeting. That was one of the second and third order effects. You know, the noise pollution now, or you know, that you gotta think through those second and third order effects.
18,000. If you're correct, here's your clue, and the world is changing.
Aaron, go ahead.
Another question that I would ask both candidates. Another question that I would ask both candidates would be the time frame that you will be serving will be when you are preparing the budget to present to the town at town meeting. How familiar do you feel with that budget, and how comfortable do you feel dealing with that part of the select board? Because it seems like there's probably only a few meetings left, and most of them will involve a lot of budget questions.
Well, for me, I haven't sat on any of on a lot of the budget stuff for the select board. I think that's a separate meeting that you guys normally have, so I'm not up to date on that, but I can easily get up to date. You know, next weekend it would be easy, sit down and go through those documents and get familiar with them and see where that is standing.
Great question, Aaron. I think fortunately for both or either of you, you've kind of dodged the meat of the budget stuff. So you get to, if it goes well, claim it. And if it goes poorly, point at us.
Well, yep.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? Comments? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I've refined my spiel a little bit, Greg. You want to give us a little bit of a synopsis of what you were, you know, why you were here and why you want to serve and what your strengths are?
Sure. My name's Greg Rabidoux. I've lived in town for 38 years now. Wife and I raised our family here over on Snipe Ireland Road. And while I've not served on the select board before, I had a long career as an architect and avoided public positions to avoid any kind of conflicts of interest between public values and client needs. About a year and a half ago, I retired, and so now that kind of restriction is no longer upon me, and I feel like I can use the skills and talents that I learned over those 4 decades of being an architect to apply those skills to the town. Although I haven't served in an official capacity, I have consistently over the years been active in town projects of interest, donating services to the Richmond Congregational Church, the Rescue Squad, the VYCC monitor barn project, this building we're in. So that long history of engagement at that level has really helped make me familiar with the town at large, but also its rules and its procedures. A lot of my work involved going in front of public boards, so I am well familiar with the conduct of public meetings and understand the ethics and the ethos that goes into being a public servant. With that in mind, I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that all voices are heard here in Richmond, that it represent all the people of Richmond and listen to everyone's concerns equally. My work also involved a lot of budgeting and a lot of number crunching. Every project had a budget. So, I over those years, well over 600 projects involved billions of dollars worth of construction. So I'm sort of familiar with how budgets go together and the kind of push and pull that makes them move forward through time. So yeah, I'm familiar with the way this should work, and I'm committed to offering my time and my talents to the town as they need it. Also, just briefly want to thank Matthew for his position. He put his letter in after mine. I didn't know he was going to be doing this, but hats off to anybody who puts 29 years into the Guard, and expect that being part of a gun crew probably makes you sort of familiar with taking a lot of heat and noise. So,
Corrections.
but yeah, I think he would make an excellent candidate as well. I have what I have to offer and stand ready to answer any questions.
So Greg, I think you know what this question is. We also have an opening on the Water-Sewer Commission. Would you be interested in filling that role as well if appointed?
Yeah, it seems like they kind of go hand in glove. Especially when we're talking about budgets.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be. And the fact of my retirement means that I don't have other competing interests for my time. I sort of assumed I'd be able, probably have to put about 20 hours a week into this process if you're going to read all the materials and sort of be present for the meetings and the committee stuff. But yeah, I would be.
That was my next question about availability. There are times where you have to make choices and put other things aside to devote time as needed. And there are times over the last 5 years, I think we can all tell you, there are times when the actual time needed to devote to this role is significantly more than we had anticipated, with floods and budgets and COVID lockdowns and everything.
Those types of special circumstances, though, I think are what make Richmond such a great town. We had substantial flood damage where I lived on Snipe Island Road, and I stand in awe of the strength of the town's response to that, how quickly they got us back into our house and our road back open. So, in those circumstances, I welcome a chance to be able to participate in the solution.
So this appointment would be until town meeting. So this is the second meeting in December. So it'd be 2 meetings in January, 2 meetings in February, 1 meeting in March. So you would be appointed for 5 meetings. Then would you be interested in running if appointed?
Yeah, I assumed that was part of the deal, that the town has a rare chance to sort of kick the tires before they commit. But yeah, I would be prepared to run in the general election.
Now, Matt, you've run before, so you know the drill, but Greg, I don't know if you know, to run in the general election, you have to ask for a petition from the town clerk and get signatures to get on the ballot. And then, this is an appointment to fill a vacancy until it goes back before the voters, which would be town meeting day.
Right.
Matt, I don't think we asked you if you're just interested in the interim or if you would be interested in running again. Okay. Okay. This is somewhat awkward for us. I don't enjoy being in the position of appointing to fill a vacancy on the board because this is an elected position. Having said that, I am grateful that you and Matt have both offered interest and offered to assist. That's a huge commitment that I like to see. And I'm also impressed that it's a very friendly application process. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I
I
would
don't
just
have
point
any
out,
other questions.
ran against Matt in our discussions at the debates, or I guess it wasn't a debate, what do we, candidates forum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both agreed a lot and both pretty thoughtful, and I was impressed with Matt. And then Greg, you bring a great skill set, being a former architect and all that. So I think we're just very lucky to have two very qualified candidates step forward. Both seem like you would been in situations that will have always been more challenging than what you will face here. So
I do have to
Um,
say, proud Richmond shout out. Every time I ran, I was unopposed, except last time when Angela Cote ran against me. And it was a very friendly campaign. Angela was very approachable. We had a lot of discussions. And oh my gosh, when I went to my first candidates debate, we actually agreed more than we disagreed. And when we did disagree, we
And I had that
respected each other's
problem as well.
points of view. And Angela and I actually spent a lot of time on town meeting day talking. So that was nice. And I appreciate that.
So going back to sort of the questions, I think you addressed the time question. That was my first question about time and availability. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that time availability, Water Sewer Commission, other tasks as required.
Duties as assigned.
No, I'm grateful to all of you who have done it for a long time. But that was my whole life's work, was dealing with, reading reports, pulling things together. It's quite familiar to me, and no, I don't run with an agenda. I don't have a particular point of view I'm pushing. I just saw a job that needed done and saw an opportunity to step up and take my turn pitching in.
So let me ask the other question I asked of Matt. How would you describe your strengths? Obviously, we have your letter, but ask you the question here in the meeting.
I'm a little uncomfortable talking about myself, but I honestly, I think my strength is in coming to the table without a lot of personality and a lot of, I think my ability to be a careful listener and not be reactionary has kind of beat in me over years and years of presenting in public and facing opposition. I think people who know me would say that it's sort of my even keel that is my asset. And I would be in a situation like the select board where things can get heated and people can get upset about things beyond that, I would say it's just sort of deep familiarity with what things cost, how many parts and pieces go into making things happen, whatever they are, but projects in general, and a lot of what happens here is contracts for various town projects, things like that. And, on a practical level, I think I have a lot of strengths there.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone in the public? Anyone online? How would we like to do this?
Well, I'd like to think we'd have 4 people at the table, but we have 3. And I think Mary made this statement earlier. I'm not sure that we need an executive session. I know at times in the past, we've done executive sessions with the same situation, but I think the need for transparency and accountability has only increased over time, I think. And so while it's a sensitive subject, perhaps, because we're going to pick one person out of 2, which is awkward, I think it's reasonable to have the discussion in public.
I agree.
I think that there's nothing we could possibly say to disparage either of you. I've only received positive comments and only have positive things to say. So it'll just be a measure of who gets.
I'm an open book. I don't speak for Matt, but I would offer that, just in order for everybody in the room here today to feel comfortable about this process, go ahead and say what you have to say. I don't have a thin skin. And probably as well, right? Oh, yeah.
And again, we're appointing one of you for the next 5 meetings, and then this goes before the voters. So this isn't the end all be all. This is a bridge to a town meeting.
Describing this not as a long-term relationship.
I can't speak for Greg, but I would hope it would be.
Well, in the past, we've appointed people who just go to town meeting and then, you know, they don't want to go any further. Which is fine.
What do you want to do? I guess I have one insight, and it's purely just a function of your careers. It just seems like with the projects you have planned on water and sewer and Greg's willingness to do it, that strikes me as a huge bonus. But as far as demeanor and all that, I think that we would be well served by either Matthew or Gregory.
So one thought I had, and this is maybe unfair to Matt, I thought about this. We are poised for contracts, 2 contracts related to the town center building.
Point out that Matt is also the contractor and does do CMsn.
Okay, there you go.
I think a different
Project supervisor.
fits in a little bit different than
Yeah.
Greg, but they do both have skills in that area.
Yeah.
So in that sense, then we have a plethora of riches, presumably.
It's kind of win-win for this.
Yeah.
Like we're at this point, yeah.
Sorry to put you 3 into this dilemma.
I'm really torn because I do think we can't go wrong,
With either.
but we also have to make a choice. I'm almost.
I mean, the good news is we have 2 really strong candidates, and I don't think we can go wrong with either one of you. The bad news is we have 2 really strong candidates, and that makes our choice that much harder.
Okay, somebody needs to make a motion.
Thank you, Mary.
If I have to make it, I'd be glad to.
That would have to be one of you two.
Yeah.
Since I'm the chair, so.
With Greg's retirement, I'm thinking you have a slight edge as far as availability. But I mean, that puts you in my mind.
Choice. We're 5 minutes over.
Mary, I mean, go.
For input.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're it's not your job. Mary, go ahead.
But I thank God people are able to live a good life and retire. But those folks who are interested in the community, who are still raising their children in the community, who have a vested interest in continuing, the Moultrie family has been there long before me. They were once the largest voting bloc. And I just really think you all know especially that the select board at the current level is pretty much of one mind. And I think it's time to open the mind and think a little deeper. I think obviously there's more people in this town that hate me than like me, and I could give a fill in the blank. But I think Matt's youth and his experience with the military and with a lovely family here, I think that his involvement will only grow. And yes, you have this 5-week training session, if you will, but then anybody can go on, I can go on the ballot. So I really think it's necessary for you to think a little more open-minded. Done. Thank you.
I will say, one of the things I've contemplated for a while, and maybe I can say this without being ageist as the oldest person on the select board, is I've expressed to various individuals, including one-on-one discussions with members of the select board, a desire for more, I'll use the term diversity in terms of age and gender as well, but we have what we have. So similar to Mary's point, but not as flowery.
Plural.
It's up to one of you two to make a motion, so. Honestly.
I'm almost flipping a coin.
That's where I am.
Literally.
We'll point out that while we did receive a lot of letters of support for both candidates, I think we received, sorry, Matt, received a significant amount more for Greg. So of people that said they couldn't be here tonight. But everyone did also say that they would be happy to have both candidates. So,
Yeah, there were nobody saying you shouldn't vote. So,
yeah. So are we flipping a coin? Are we making a motion? What are we doing?
Flipping a coin is ridiculous.
Pat,
Yeah.
So what do you want to
I
do?
said almost.
Marshall.
I'm Marshall Carlson, and I just have a question, which is that one of the benefits of an executive session, it may allow select board members to maybe have discussions that they can be more candid with each other. I don't know that that's the case, but I'm imagining myself sitting where you are. Someone's got to make a motion.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing to do when you have a room full of people staring at you.
yes, it is.
Who's gonna do it first? So I'm just throwing out there, is that a benefit of an executive session for you folks in this case? Thank you.
There's nothing that I would want to say in an executive session that I don't feel comfortable saying in public in this case, but thank you.
Well, we're not going to wait till next meeting.
Okay,
So we're going to sit here.
All things being equal, first come, first served. I mean, I don't know how you guys are approaching this. You guys aren't gonna go in and talk about it, but if that all things being equal.
That's
Keep
ridiculous.
it flipping a coin now.
Don't feel that way, Mary.
Okay,
So would you both be open to running on town meeting day? Whoever we choose? Okay, that takes a little pressure off.
Regardless of who's selected tonight.
Right. So this would just be a 5-meeting appointment,
So
and then the voters can decide it.
this is a bridge to
Yeah.
a vote in March.
Is there a limit to the number of select boards? Could they share the position and?
No,
Statutorily,
all
we're limited.
Good
spelled
question.
out by statute, but that's a good thought. This is really hard, but just because we need to make a choice, and since they are both running on town meeting, I'm gonna nominate Greg Rabidoux for the interim appointment.
I will second that.
Okay.
We have a
And-
second and the motion.
And again, I make this this is a pain decision because Matt, I don't want to be like, sorry, you know, I think we're safe with either one of you, but like I alluded to earlier, I don't feel comfortable making an appointment to fill an elected position, and this is just a bridge to get us to town meeting day. Mary has a question.
Mary, go ahead.
you are not obliged to fill this position. If you are thus hesitant, you can leave it open. The statute says you may fill. It does not say you shall fill. So
Yeah.
there's your out.
Thank you. A motion in a second. What would you like to do? On a vote.
Addressing that directly, I actually think we benefit from having 5 members, even though we are baseline of 3 tonight.
Yeah.
I think there's some pretty significant issues we are dealing with where Caitlin has historically and will continue to recuse herself because she is affected by stormwater stuff. So I think having another person in those discussions will be beneficial for the whole town as well. So I think we do need to appoint someone. We
I agree.
need to. I think it'll be very beneficial to appoint someone. We could limp by without it.
Well, so I think we just call the motion because I don't think we're going to solve anything by a further
Calling the
discussion.
motion to a vote.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye.
So procedural question, Greg, you would have to be sworn in by, okay.
Name tag and everything.
Yeah.
You made 2 name tags?
Made 2 name tags, reach eventuality.
Oh, who, the Super Bowl shirt.
Can you get
But-
that as a souvenir?
As we're going through this.
Zan, do you know off the top of your head when petitions are due for the coming election?
Days before town meeting, so about the 15th-ish of January.
January,
Where you're in.
January 15th.
So
Not that you haven't figured that out before.
I would really hope that we see both names on the ballot in March. For what that's worth, and I hope it's worth something.
Yeah.
What do we need? Are we gonna pause for a minute until we can?
She's swearing him in.
Like I said,
Thirty
right,
seconds.
you guys were in a dilemma.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Matt, thank you. It's selfishly speaking, it puts us in an awkward position, but proudly saying that it's great that we had two phenomenal candidates coming forward. And don't let this be a don't run for office lesson.
I don't get the sense that would have been a takeaway anyway, yeah. The first time I ran and I lost, it just motivated me to get signs the next time. Now, Matt takes motivation away from those things as well. Should we?
Yeah, it's like the Super Bowl. Everybody has a hat in the back room, and then the winner gets the hat, and maybe we'll give you yours in March. We'll see how it goes.
The voters say.
You can have my memos.
And it's not like they're voting on it, the Army Navy.
Oh,
All right, continuing with our agenda. Next, we have a reminder of an upcoming budget meeting on Tuesday, January 6th. That'll be at 7 p.m. here, same spot. That's our final budget presentation meeting before the town meeting, a vote on it. Do we have were we planning an actual presentation?
Yeah, I was
That too?
probably gonna
Is that-
do a presentation.
Okay, so this will be more of a presentation, and we can make final tweaks and change some nuance there, but I think the budget kind of has to be largely sorted by then, just because of timelines, but that budget is available for everyone to review too, so we can review it, check it out. Send us stuff ahead of time if you have questions or changes, and we can work on that Tuesday, January 6th. Any questions? Next, we have a review of unassigned and restricted funds to fund reserve funds in draft FY27 budget. So this was a kind of I wouldn't say minor. This was a tweak of the budget at the last budget meeting. We had underfunded our reserves last year with a lot of money tied up in flood stuff. We had a flat tax rate this year, but it would have left our reserves for highway and building projects, and I think fire department underfunded or off schedule still. So we chose, I guess we didn't choose. We are proposing increasing those contributions this coming year to get us back on track where we'll need to be when we spend that money. Josh, do you want to give a?
Yeah, and
some of it,
part of that is using the unassigned and restricted funds, was essentially budget surplus money, rather than putting that all towards a tax reduction in FY27, using some of that money for reserve contributions, so we can help flatten out that tax increase that we would see in FY28 or 29, when we don't have as many unassigned and restricted funds to use in the budget. So one of the things we discussed was the need for a recreation reserve fund to fund resurfacing the pickleball court, repairs to the playground, other things like that in the recreation field. So we added $10,000 to that, or created that with $10,000. We increased the bridge and culvert reserve to $160,000 for this year's budget. That is going to be $10,000 from unassigned funds for the recreation budget, and $110,000 from unassigned funds for the highway and bridge culvert reserve. So that doesn't come from taxes, it comes from money that we have on hand. However, it does increase what we need to put in taxes, because it reduces this line here, which is the amount of money that we use to offset the budget. So you look at unassigned funds, we have $273,000 budgeted to go in to offset the tax rate increase in FY27. And that would have been higher had we not used $120,000 towards the two reserve funds. So as Adam was saying, That now is gonna get us to a tax rate increase of, let me take this off of this view here, it's a weird view. 3.98% over last year. And that's projected based on a projected grand list value. So the actual will come to fruition in June when we set the tax rate. In July.
Any questions? Or Bart?
I would only observe, we've had these conversations where we're trying to come in about or lower than inflation, and there are several inflation measures. Most of which, or many of which are a bit higher than this.
Bart, I'll just add that the CPI index has gone up significantly since we started our budget discussions.
Yeah, it's like for perspective, we shoot for inflation or lower. This see with JEC numbers are looking at 12 months prior to December. So it doesn't include December, obviously, are looking at the core CPI of 5.7% and was it universal or what is it? Whatever, the 6.5%. So somewhere, depending what metric you want to choose. So we're not zero, we're lower than inflation. I think that's a level we're comfortable with, and shooting for flat when inflation's that high would kind of be underfunding our reserves in the future.
And I'd also add, it's one of the things that we wrestle with are inflationary pressures, especially, I think we share some of this with school system, that we pay for health insurance and the cost of health insurance is going up substantially faster than inflation as a whole.
Yeah, it's not lost on us that just because there's inflation, it shouldn't be a pass to increase the budget that much, and those inflationary pressures do hit everyone differently. But we do also need to kind of maintain a level of services. So if people want to change that, we're open to suggestions. It's not only our choice by any means.
And Adam, if I could, marketing for the Water-Sewer Commission. For those of you who don't pay attention to the Water-Sewer Commission or not on the water sewer system, we are facing really substantial costs for a required 20-year upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant, which is by any of our standards, big money. Also a separate budget because that is an enterprise that's not part of the town budget. It's the Water-Sewer Commission's role. So that's a long-winded way of saying that's another pressure that we will see with some of us.
Good.
Hi, Kevin Drum with Southview, but so I attended the Water Commission on somewhat recently, and I was surprised at the meeting that they talked about passing on some of that cost to residents of Richmond that were not a part of the water sewage treatment systems. And it just concerns me that while this board, I know we're on Southview right now, but you talk about only passing on those charges to the people who are affected by it. But I found that that commission was actually talking about spreading that cost on to others because they didn't want those users to have to bear the whole cost of that upgrade.
Yeah.
I'll just say, did you attend tonight's meeting?
I didn't.
So that conversation starts with the consultants who have, that's honestly where it's come from. It's not anybody sitting up here, or I don't think on that commission, which is mostly the same people. But when literally looking at the cost, the guy was sitting over there earlier today saying, this is how we suggest you do it. So when he says, and you could look at the recording when I said something like, I think you're going to be going uphill to propose that to the other taxpayers, see what they have to say. But I have the experience of dealing with this when we dealt with a new water tank up on the hill and how that was going to cost and who was going to pay for it. So I've been around the barn at least once on this topic, so it's not lost on me how many taxpayers view that as you described.
One thing the town does do is, I think the water tank's a perfect example, is use the whole town's bonding and borrowing power to secure the financing for that, but the bond is paid back solely by water and sewer fees. So there's no cost to the town, but we do kind of put the weight of the town behind it. Get
Actually,
more competitive.
With the exception of a fee for fire water, I'm sorry to glibly use that word. But it's my perspective. I've said this for 12 years and say it again today. For most of the time, until what, 5 or 6 years ago, something like that, the people in the village who demonstrably have lower income than the rest of the town provided fire water for free to the rest of the town. So there was a long conversation about what the fire water is worth. I heard people say, well, I'll pay when the fire truck shows up. Well, that's not how you pay for the fire truck, because if we did that, we'd have to charge you like $40,000 for the fire truck to show up at your house. And last I knew, the fire trucks were not very effective without water. We'll also remind you that a previous fire chief said, I don't want to be sucking water out of ponds and rivers, because what you get are particulates that destroy the pump, and the repair on the pump is about $10,000.
if you can get to the water.
I'm sorry?
If you can get to the water.
If you can get to the water. And it's why sometimes some towns have standpipes, because they have to. They don't have a tank with adequate supply.
I would just point out, I think we were a little off topic
Sorry.
now. These are all very, very good points.
January 6th meeting.
Yeah, and I think there, there's a lot of room for that discussion at the Water and Sewer Commission. The Water and Sewer Commission meetings are obviously open to everyone, not just people who are ratepayers. And I
I'll
think,
close that with marketing for the water sewer.
yeah, yeah, I think they would honestly take any input they can, because they're in a tough spot right now. Does anyone have any more budget related questions or comments? Okay, next we have an update on increasing the hours of the Assistant Town Clerk for the second half of FY26.
Yeah, so
Josh.
this is something we put into the FY27 budget, was an increase per hours from 12 to, I think, 25 hours. In the projection for FY26 unassigned money, we actually increased her hours in that projection from 12 to 20 hours from January through June, to cover some additional recordings that have been seeming to come into the town clerk's office, and also prepare for the retirement of our finance director. We want to get the assistant town clerk trained on the payroll process, so that we have some backup, so that when Connie retires, we have somebody in the office who's ready to take that over, and kind of also then serve as a backup to the new finance director. So more of an update. We've already sort of put it in the budget, but I just wanted to bring it before the board before we finally make that official in January for 6 months, and then we'll see where we go with the budget. If it passes, we'll have extra hours for her in FY27 as well. It's the total cost of that is about $5,200 over the 6 months.
Gotcha. So I like the idea of having a backup for payroll. Is that something we'll maintain that training and familiarity?
Yes.
And maybe not in perpetuity, but for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we really need to have a backup. Right now, Connie's the expert in all of that, and if she's out sick, it's really challenging Wednesday on payroll. So having a backup is huge, and especially as she retires and we get a new person in, they're gonna have a lot to learn. So if we can have somebody take over payroll pretty much consistently and then start to train the new finance director as well.
Do we, forgive my ignorance, I know I've asked this before, do we process payroll in-house, or do we use a payroll service?
We process it in-house through the NEMRIC payroll system. So we don't have an outside service that we give everything to. It's, we go through timesheets, we enter into the computer, there's all the taxes, all the health insurance calculations that have to get entered in as well. A lot of it's automated through the computer, but it's still a multiple hour-long process every Wednesday to do that, or every other Wednesday.
I apologize for getting off topic, because I wouldn't say scolded, but course corrected everyone. Have we considered using a service? I know that in my business, I've gone through it myself and then used a service, and it is so much more efficient and cheap to use a service. It could be different for a town. So
Haven't really explored it much. Could be something for the new finance director to look into. I think Connie's probably not going to want to do that in the next 4 months. But a new finance director might have a different perspective and might want to look into that.
I'll revisit it in the spring.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Anyone have any questions, comments about that? Mary?
Thank you. And Mary, it's important for people to know how to do it that are within the building. So if the assistant
point.
town clerk can learn that in the, I can't believe Connie's thinking about retiring, but just the idea that somebody has to be able to physically do it. So that you understand, the whole process, if it ever is farmed out, so that, you know, you understand what's going on. You know how to do it if something happens to them.
Good point.
I'm really uncomfortable giving so much of our details to someone else.
I just
And
point out
everything.
one correction. Connie's not thinking of retiring. She's committed to it. So.
We'll see about that. I think you need to check her age. I don't think.
I've asked.
I don't think I can comment.
I've asked her a few times.
Thank
She's
you.
pretty focused on a springtime retirement, so, and we're trying to make that transition.
Which spring though?
Yeah, she's pretty committed to 26, unfortunately, but, there we are.
Next, we have an update on the completion of the ethics training and signing of ethics acknowledgement forms by committee and staff members. So I think this is an ongoing update. We've been slowly ramping up our efforts to gain compliance and, more importantly, I think get training completed. The compliance is important, but having the training completed and the knowledge that comes along with that is probably the most important piece.
Yep.
So I think I hesitant to say threat, but our threat since the last meeting is that since these are all public positions, appointed or elected or paid for by public, that we would we were gonna post a list of who had and had not completed them, just for transparency. And that's included in the packet, I believe, right?
It is.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna publicly shame anyone in the meeting, but you know, it is what it is. So
Yeah, and we saw, I think, a really good jump. I mean, I reviewed these numbers the last couple of meetings, they were staying pretty flat. But you can see right here, the numbers on the bottom are from 2 weeks ago, and these are the numbers from right now. So fire department went from 29% to 35% for ethics training, 41% to 59% for ethics forms, volunteers 69 to 80, 88 to 92 for ethics forms, 97 to 100 for staff, 97 to 100 for staff and ethics forms. We did find too that we asked for feedback on why hadn't people completed it. Some of it was, well, I took the training, but never got the certificate. So we helped walk them through how to go get your certificate after you've done the training, even if it was months ago. So we picked up a few people like that. And I think we had a good movement here, and we'll try to send another reminder, see if we can get a few more even by January 5th. And I do want to remind folks, and I know I do this every time, that we've spent the most focus on it this year ever, and I think these are the highest numbers that I've ever seen for compliance. So I want to thank the select board for putting a lot of extra focus on this. And even though we're not at 100%, we're a lot better than we had been in the last year, and I think we can continue to do better.
Something to say, Bird? You had an inquisitive look on your face.
I was just gonna mention something to Greg. It doesn't take very long.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Josh can set you up with it, or it's pretty easy. It does take a few minutes. It takes probably half an hour to do the
Yeah.
training, and
Oh, no, I'll get that done before the next meeting, as long as I have the login.
if not,
information
we'll
there.
post your name publicly, so.
And like, I need to keep
Well, like-
at the end of the meeting, because I got a lot of stuff to send you tomorrow from the select board.
That's good. Thank you.
Ethics included.
A Richmond email address.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have.
I'll get you a Richmond email address, but I need. That's why I emailed Matt on Friday, but I didn't have your email address.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
gonna email you as well, so don't think I was trying to email only Matt. But I just get some contact info at the end of the meeting, and I'll get you set up for the next few meetings.
So.
Oh.
Where does this leave us now? We're doing better than we've ever done before. We're not doing as well as we would like to do. What's our path forward here? What do we, I mean, we don't have I don't think there's like an action item right now, but just kind of, where are we at? What's the board think?
Maybe lean on department heads a little bit and chairs.
I think it's more chairs. We're at 100% for staff.
Yeah.
I think it's chairs, and then maybe working with Jerry,
That's what I
to
was
see what we
thinking.
can do for. If he can do the video training for everybody in a training, and then they can go fill the test out afterwards, so they can get their certificates, that might be a way to move the fire department along.
I mean, if it's a certificate issue, is there? Not that we want to bend the rules, but if we do the training
It's pretty easy
On
to do a
site.
certificate.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, if
I
you
guess
do
I
the
did
training on
this one
site
thing.
and you have a laptop or two set up, you then just have to go answer like 5 questions. It takes
Perfect.
literally 5 minutes and then you get the certificate emailed to you.
So we could have them do it on a training night.
Yep.
And anyone who is showing up will have then been trained, and anyone who's not, there's a bigger discussion about attendance that can
Yep.
happen there.
And they can just take the quick test, get their certificate, even if they watch it as a group. It's pretty simple. So I'll work with Jerry to try to get that going and see if we can get that done at their next or their
Do we
upcoming
need
training.
to like one of us to go do the training so that, I don't know. I hate to volunteer myself, but
Go to the fire department to do the
go
training
and
with
do
them.
the training with them so that they do it all, and it's someone not from the fire department doing the training.
If it was an off Monday from a select board night, Jerry might welcome that. Let me ask Jerry, see if what he thinks.
I would venture a guess that he doesn't care if it's an off Monday.
Yeah.
I could steal it all. It's pretty basic training, but does go through some scenarios that are
Yeah.
valuable.
It does.
Next, we have a consideration of making an appointment to the Conservation Commission. So we have, I believe, 2 vacant seats on the Conservation Commission. We have 1 application. We have Trevor Brooks who applied. There's 2 vacant seats, one ending in 2027 and one ending in 2029.
Right.
Trevor, are you with us online?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to give us a little synopsis of why you would like to be appointed and what you think you bring to the commission?
Sure. I guess the main thing is I was looking for some way to participate in town activities and volunteer and help out. I have, I'd say, limited knowledge on the various topics of the Conservation Commission. I know some of the areas of it, but I'm interested in many of the areas that they cover, and the things that they deal with and the projects they work on. And they're things that I would like to learn more about. And I feel like learning things and being able to learn things is the thing that I can, I guess, offer, is that I am willing to do that and willing to help out and help with the projects and just the overall goals of the Conservation Commission. And I can attend the meetings, and I've taken the ethics training.
Ahead of the game.
Sold.
It's honestly should be a requirement from now on.
I have one question, Adam. Trevor, I note that it says that you have some experience with wetlands. It's just of interest. Can you tell us something about that?
I'm mostly just reading the wetland rules and the different criteria for what considers a wetland and just some of the plants. My wife has more knowledge than I do, but also just from listening to her talk about it, and just that kind of thing, I guess. Also, just, I guess, mostly I also like hunting and being in the woods and doing that kind of stuff. And so that's, I'd like to be able to protect those resources and make sure they're there and able for people and animals to enjoy.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Trevor?
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to appoint Trevor Brooks to the Conservation Commission to fill the vacant seat with the term ending in 2029.
Second.
A motion and a first second. Further discussion? I would just point out that the Richmond Conservation Commission did talk with Trevor and unanimously vote to recommend his appointment.
Trevor, I want to thank you for volunteering for this. That's appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And we do have another opening if anyone is interested.
Calling the motion to a vote.
Hard, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Next, we have consideration of approving the Catamount Outdoor Family Center Spring Gravel Ride scheduled for Saturday, May 2nd. Mary.
Why is Williston Catamount Outdoor Family asking Richmond permission for anything? Are they doing something in Richmond?
I think last year they did as well. They do a gravel ride leaving from Catamount, but it does take place part of it takes place a little bit on Richmond roads. So they have asked for permission.
Is that near the far land or where? I mean, it says gravel.
Yeah, which exact roads?
And I think we have a representative from Catamount here.
There is a map in the document in the packet.
Is there?
Yeah, there you go.
What's gonna be easier?
Over to Chittenden Cemetery, okay, all right.
Yeah, so
Thank
here,
you.
here's the beginning. Yeah, it comes up Kenyon, Heinsberg, Cemetery, Hillview, Huntington, and then Mayo Road. And then on the way back, Dugway, Cochrane, Johnny Brook, Kenyon Road, West Main Street. So it's not all gravel, but they try to do as much dirt road as possible.
Thank you.
I believe nothing's closed.
Nothing's
They
closed.
run it by us for approval to make sure the town
Thank you.
buys in.
Yep, and
Do we have a representative here?
thought we were going to, I've forgotten their name.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the letter here.
I'll just note, they also have a signage plan and a safety plan in the town.
Is there anybody from Catamount?
We've asked a few times, we haven't
I
heard.
guess not.
No, but I think they also warn, they send letters out to residents on those roads too, to let them know.
What would you guys like to do with it? Doesn't look like we have a representative to ask questions of. So we'll have to decide on the merits of what's in the packet.
This is a repeat, right?
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
the same event last year.
That's what I
I
thought.
think the same
Same basic.
Same route
route
and
is
everything,
almost
yeah.
identical, if not identical as well.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve the Catamount Outdoor Family Center Spring Gravel Ride scheduled for Saturday, May 2nd, 2026, with a rain date of Sunday, May 3rd, 2026.
Is Bart, I'll second.
With a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Being none, calling the motion to a vote.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Congratulations to whoever is representing.
How many riders do they get?
I don't think they gave us the statistics last year because it was their first year, right?
I think that's right. I don't recall that they wrote it. Let's see, did they, anything in the? I don't see anything on the first page.
I don't know.
Well, the motion's already passed, so it's
Yeah.
ill-timed question, sorry.
Okay, next we have consideration of approving a grant application to Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission's Unified Planning Work Program to study traffic at the intersection of Jolina Court, Bridge Street, and Railroad Street. Keith, do you want to talk to this?
Yes, I can. I believe the application is posted online. It's a pretty simple application. I have been wanting to do this for a couple of years. So basically, it is a traffic study on the level of service at the intersection of Bridge Street, Railroad Street, and Jolina Court. And the study is to look at a full build out of both Jolina Court and Railroad Street and what those effects are on that intersection. And if needed, what mitigation would need to happen. My understanding after talking with Jason Charest at Regional Planning, the UPWP application will be taken in-house. There will not be any matching funds that are needed. I believe that this can be done on an hourly basis with Chittenden County and what we give them for our work on a yearly basis. And if not, there is a line item in my budget for transportation planning and specifically for this study to potentially assist with that. And if we don't have to pay for anything, well, that line obviously can go away at some point.
Great. I know this intersection has been a point of discussion, I would say, at many select board and planning commission meetings over the last few years. So this is great to have this in the works, and it's even better to have it be done potentially for free or with minimal match funds.
Correct.
I think we would need a motion.
Yeah, and what I'm basically looking for is approval to move forward with it.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve a grant application to the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission's the Unified Planning Work Program to study traffic at the intersection of Jolina Court, Bridge Street, and Railroad Street.
Is Bart, I will second that.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Calling it to a vote.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Next, we have an update on the process to appoint a zoning administrative officer. You want to go over this, Josh? Or do you want me to give a synopsis?
You want?
I guess, yeah, you go over it.
Sure. So the zoning administrative officer, the process to get to that is that the planning commission has to nominate a zoning administrative officer, and then it's voted on by the select board. They had this on the agenda for their December 3rd meeting. We have hired someone for the position, but they started out sort of in a training role as acting zoning administrative officer. So they had it on their December 3rd meeting to make an appointment. They did have a member who recused from that vote, which meant that they did not have a quorum of members for a vote. It's back on their meeting for this Wednesday, December 17th. Should they vote to nominate Dante, then that will come to the select board at the January 5th meeting. And I think that the chair is trying to make sure that they have more than a quorum. So if a member recuses themselves, they'll be able to make that vote on meeting this Wednesday.
Great. Sounds like we will be dealing with it in our first meeting in January, potentially.
Potentially.
Maybe not. Next we have a submittal of a non-recusal form from the Development Review Board Chair David Sunshine for a non-recusal in the appeal of a permit at 1330 Jericho Road. It's my understanding that with the new ethics policy, there is a form that needs to be filled out by I think any member of a board if they identify a potential conflict or where there could be the appearance, but they determine that there is not a conflict and they choose not to recuse themselves. They then fill out a form and submit it to the body. So the body would be the select board.
As a legislative body.
Yep.
Yeah, so this came up in a DRB meeting for an appeal of a permit on November 12th, 2025. David stated he didn't, I think he was asked by a member of the public to recuse himself. He stated he didn't have a conflict of interest. He stated why. He then does have 5 business days to submit a non-recusal statement to the select board. The 5th business day was Wednesday, November 19th. I received non-recusal statement on Saturday, December 16th, which was 16 business days after the November 12th meeting. The next DRB meeting after their original meeting on November 12th was December 10th. At the December 10th meeting, the DRB actually moved to invalidate the permit because the acting zoning administrator had signed the permit. So this is actually no longer a topic before the DRB, but that's the timeline of it. So he was a few days late on submitting the non-recusal, but it is in your packet. There's really no action for the board to take. It's more of a notification. Although I guess looking in the enforcement section, it is, if you chose to do, there are some enforcement issues you could do as far as like a warning or escalated if necessary for not having it on time.
If he fails to recuse, does that leave that board without a quorum or leave them unable to process the application otherwise?
So I think, I'm not sure, David or
I don't know the details of that
Keith,
exactly.
yeah, I don't know what their numbers were. Do either of you know the answer to that? Or David, do you want to speak to this more broadly to the select board?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So to answer your question, there was a board was full, all 5. So if I had recused myself, we still would have had a quorum. However, and I apologize for the lateness, but this form has never been used before. And so it took me a while to find the form and then fill it out. And I filled it out in anticipation of the meeting that we had, the second meeting that we had, where we actually took a vote because we continued the first meeting where I talked about recusal, but we were going to have a vote at this last meeting, and that's when I filed my form. And it's this interesting situation because, yes, I am an abutting landowner, but I happen to be lucky enough with my wife to own a fair amount of land, and I'm an abutting landowner to a number of people. However, my land is large enough that I'm a great distance from most of my abutters, especially in this situation where the application by the landowner and the appeal by the neighbor is at least 3/4 of a mile from my house. And the only thing that touches and concerns my parcel is a small parcel way up in the corner of the landowner's land of great almost 99 acres away from where his application is concerned and where his house is being built. So I have strong feelings that there is no need for me to recuse myself just because I'm an abutting landowner in this situation. And I have stated all that in my form.
I would just, yeah, thank you for submitting the form. I would guess I would encourage you to reiterate to the rest of the board that, you know, this does exist now and is a requirement, and hopefully try to get future forms in a timely manner. Chelsea.
Hi there. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to briefly speak to this. I'll keep it short, and just as we navigate this new ethics rules, sort of keeping in mind how the decisions we're making and the precedent that we're setting, because when an ethics issue was before the select board regarding a different DRB situation that actually happened right before we entered these new ethics rules, the town lawyer actually wrote a memo that said, as an abutting landowner, you should just recuse. And so I think it's just the fact that there was a quorum without participation, and the fact that this is an abutting landowner situation in an appeal. It's not just an application before the DRB, but an appeal where anybody who is an abutting adjoining by statute automatically like has status as an interested party. And so like, or can, should they choose. And then the recusal procedures are such that the person who chooses not to recuse can state their reason, and then the rest of the members of the board have an opportunity to sort of like ask questions about that. And my concern here is simply that without accurate information, how can they sort of make any sort of decision, determination, or weigh in? Because while both parcels are large, the driveways to access both of these parcels are just about a quarter of a mile away from each other, not 3/4 of a mile. And the sort of proposed building site is about like 500 to 600 feet away from a proposed building site on the other parcel. So like they're relatively close, and abutting landowners. And it's just sort of, I won't go on sort of my reasons on why I thought it would be a good idea to recuse, but it's sort of that like, when in doubt, why not recuse type thing, I guess, is my opinion here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. And the board have anything to add? I guess I don't have anything to add. I would just say that I think having these forms filed and having the reasons for or against recusal by the member being documented is a huge step in the right direction if a further review needs to take place. I think this is a great, while imperfect, a huge step up from where we were a year ago. Next, we have a review of consent form for special assessment district for the Southview Stormwater 3-acre permit. Want to go over this, Josh?
Sure. So there's actually a couple things in the packet for this. I'll share screen quick. So at the last meeting, we talked about sort of the next step would be getting a consent form draft for the select board and the residents to review. This would be a consent form for the special assessment for the cost related to compliance to the 3-acre permit. So that consent form draft is included in the packet. It does leave blank the costs. I didn't have time before the meeting to go through the costs, but I did start today, try to end up in a draft. So I haven't really double checked these numbers with anybody else, but looking at the engineering fees, the initial permit processing, construction estimate, annual operating fee, annual maintenance fees. And I did these out over a number of years. So I checked in with the state to find out like, okay, annual maintenance fee or operating fee is $160 every year for 30 years, and $160 per acre. So to try to get sort of a 30-year number on these things. Came up with a total, added a contingency of 5%, thinking that some of these prices over, a number of years might increase, especially construction. Did allocation for the town, allocation for the homeowners, total per parcel, and then subtracted the grant out of this. So the $9,100 in permit fees, the engineering fees would be $30,000 would be covered by the grant, did the same numbers again to get another per parcel fee for this. So again, a draft, I probably need to confirm some of these numbers before it's official, but I wanted to give at least some idea of sort of total cost as I went through these in my head to understand where we were at. And that will help fill in some of the special consent numbers. And then also included in the packet, there were some additional questions that were submitted. Let me get back to where that is.
Can you read that number aloud? It's just hard to read it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So also right here, I'm just before I'll go circle back, but we've got this question and answer sheet going that is 5 pages long, and then we had some more questions submitted in mid-November. So there's a couple pages of additional questions and answers that I've provided here as well. Let me go back to those numbers, Sarah. Which number are we looking for?
Just the total would be helpful for starters. The
Yeah.
total per household.
Total
Way at the bottom.
per household. Yeah. So
This is. Sorry.
that's all right. So the total per household without the grant is $8,004. The total per household with the grant is $74.84. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger.
And that's over 10 years, quarterly payments?
That's how we've been proposing it for now, yes.
What would that be?
That was my question. What was the timeline we were proposing over? Was it a decade?
So 700.
Yeah, so what's that, 40 payments?
544 for just quarterly.
Right.
So,
For 10.
well, 40 payments, right? Because
Yeah, so the quarterly.
so it'd be 187 per quarter or
$10 a year.
yeah, no, I don't know, like
That was not accurate.
that number was clearly, yeah, I think I tried to correct him in the meeting that was not accurate. So this should be per quarter, that's per year, including the grant. And
So, I'm sorry, you
Yeah, go ahead.
saying that suggesting that that number would be what would appear in the contract as what our limit exposure is, or is it that plus another 25% because there's always a management reserve that needs to be included?
so whatever number we put in that consent form, we can't go higher than that unless there's another consent form.
But I'm saying, are you going to inflate that number to provide yourself a cushion? Should there be a growth?
Well,
You applied in some of your answers.
so yeah, if we're gonna put anything in there for inflation, we'd have to do that before the consent forms are sent out. So that's where, once I total up all the numbers here, I said, well, maybe construction's more expensive, maybe the permit fees go up down the road. So I just put a 5% adder on top of everything. So this 5% is on top of is 5% of the $573,000. And that's for discussion. That's not in stone. That's just, I think there should be some sort of a contingency. But that, once it's on the form, that would be in stone, and we can't go above that. We can go below it, but not above it.
My language is no higher than.
Correct.
In the document.
And you mentioned that this will be financed over 10 years. Are there financing fees associated or that should be included in the quarterly payments?
So that I did not add, so there would not be for the special assessment. That would just be a flat fee that would have no interest. If we did need to get a loan for any of this, we would have to then factor in like, okay, do we want to put something in for a loan? So part of that 5% contingency is probably interest payments. And we haven't really talked about that level of detail. Do we need a loan for this? How are we going to finance it? Do we have enough in the stormwater reserve fund that we could pay for this? And then pay ourselves back. If there was a loan, we'd have to factor that in ahead of time.
So is it fair to say we're getting close, but this is not final because of the things like were just mentioned?
Yeah, I think we're getting close. Really, I would just want to have a little more time to look at this, probably share it with the state and the engineer just to make sure I'm not overlooking something. But I think I got it pretty good.
Yeah.
5% contingency.
It's up for debate, what do you guys want to do? I think we could, the higher number we put into the special assessment paperwork, the more protection there is for the town, once we get to the end of because we would not assess anything until we get construction completed and we make sure that we have all the final bills for construction, because you never know, with construction, there could be something that comes up, they hit ledge they didn't know about, there are increased costs. So that would also give us time to refine, like, are there permit fees going to increase in the future years? So the 5% contingency was in there just to kind of cover the town. If the costs exceed the special assessment district number, we can't go above that unless we go up for another special assessment district vote. So it's sort of a balance, I think, between, if we asked for 50% contingency, we may not get people to sign. If we ask for 5 or 10%, that's probably more palatable. But if we need more money, then you're a bit of a challenge.
No, I think 5% would be in line with what I'm used to seeing in normal contracts. It's just seems like there'd be enough in there to perhaps cover the cost of financing unless you're going to a commercial bank for it.
That's what I was also hoping.
Yeah, I agree with Greg, and I think the real unknown is the timeline between now and the beginning of construction. I think the construction and contingency is relatively easier to predict than the path to get to the beginning of construction, which is somewhat of an unknown at this point.
Yeah, and the estimate of construction right now, we have it at 310. We don't really know until we get bids, but that is maybe even a year or more in the future.
I'd also say that I expect that this special assessment will be a one-time thing, and I wouldn't expect, if I was on the board or not on the board, for there really to be another special assessment related to this. So I think that, I don't know, that's kind of only speaking for myself, kind of where I'm at on it, but what do you guys think? Actually, more importantly, yeah, Kevin.
I could just chat a little bit.
Yeah.
Back late October, as we started seeing some numbers coming in on this stormwater mitigation, I sent out an email. I took a position with the neighbors, and I basically said that I would support actually going out and support the special assessment. And the logic that I used was the fact that it's for the peace of mind, small number, peace of mind. And we're also gambling with our neighbors. If someone decides to sell a house, when the state decides that we're entrenched and they're starting to throw liens against houses and all that, it puts those neighbors who have to sell at a disadvantage. And when we talked as a group at one of our meetings, I heard some people say similar comments back. So I think that there was some traction, not widespread, but there was some traction. I think that the people in the meeting, they were along the lines of what Sarah said, that they're on the fence. And I think a lot of that fence was caused by the lack of understanding of the details about what is it really going to cost. If we sign up, what are we committing ourselves to? There's a whole string of unknowns out there. I think that made folks quite nervous. And then there were also probably a handful of hell no, never types. And then we had the last stormwater discussion here. And I know Paige talked about it with a lawyer, but I was quite angry at the end of the meeting based upon how the lawyer spoke to us and said things. And I walked away from that meeting saying, hell, if I'm going to support any type of a special assessment based upon the comments and the fact that the board itself did not oppose the language or the tone and demeanor of the lawyer. And it really, I think you guys poisoned the well. I think you really pushed a lot of people towards, no, we don't want to help you. We don't want to support you and so on. And it's not the attitude that I was at prior to that meeting. And I know you guys asked, where does the group feel they fall in there? And I think I articulated is how I see it.
Okay.
I just wanted to pass
appreciate that
on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. Sarah?
So I have some comments on the draft language for the consent. I don't know if we're ready to take a look at that, but if we are, I've got a few things I'd like to raise. Easier question. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Sarah, hi, I'm Southview resident, frequent flyer at these meetings at this point. So, all right. So if we look at the draft language here, I mean, just in the first paragraph, I'm confused as to why it indicates that the town has agreed to work cooperatively as a co-permittee with the residents of the Southview subdivision. So my understanding was that there would be one permittee, it would be the town. The town is agreeing to take full legal responsibility for this. And that is what has led us to this special assessment. additionally, per statute, per 47 VSA 1264 D2, the town can only impose a special assessment using that provision if the town accepts full legal responsibility for the stormwater system. So I think this is a necessary edit to this if we're going to move forward with the special assessment, unless I'm missing something.
I can't speak to that personally. I'm not, yeah.
Okay.
So this is a valuable point to bring up and we'll have to hash it out.
I hate to say this, but this is where I would tend to rely on an attorney.
Sure. That's
I can
fair.
appreciate how you say.
Speak on behalf of the neighborhood. I'm not their attorney. I am an attorney, and I will tell you, I'm not signing this if it says that we're a co-permittee.
Sure.
Because that puts us as co-permittee, is that creates a different legal relationship between us and the town when it comes to this permit. So I strongly urge the select board to discuss that with whomever drafted this document. And then the other thing I wanted to ask about is we had discussed including language in here about the town agreeing to split grant money with the Southview residents. I would again strongly encourage us to add that language because I think that would make it a lot more palatable to folks if we know that there's a commitment, a legally binding commitment from the town, that if any grant funds do come in over the next few years, that would be a portion between the town and the residents, and it wouldn't just all be applied to the town's portion of costs. And I didn't see that in here. And then the third thing I wanted to raise is on the last page. My understanding is it appears that the landowners filling this out are going to have to go seek out this information about their deed and title and where it's recorded. I don't know what the timeline is for filling this out, but I know a lot of people are going to be out of town over the holidays over the next few weeks. And so I'm a little concerned about them having access to that information. They're also supposed to get this notarized. And so this is just, you know, it's a hurdle just in the sense that people are going to have to like come to the town center to get this information, probably to look it up in the books. It's going to require a lot of legwork. So I'm wondering if there's any way to like ease that process for folks.
Right.
So two things. It would seem to me that your mention of grant funds could be a final whereas between whereas and now therefore some statement about how grant funds will be divided proportionally, presumably. And then regarding the last now therefore, really perhaps could we populate this with maybe the exception of the property owner names?
Yeah, the easements that I've been involved with in the past, the town attorney usually populates that information.
Okay.
So that it's not on the resident to look that up.
So that's pre-populated,
Yeah,
maybe
usually.
including the names, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll double check that he would do that for these, but I mean, thinking of the water sewer ones, the water line, he's gonna put all that in there.
Okay, yeah, I think that'd be great because I think that would give like a pretty high bar for people to figure this out themselves, right? A lot of legwork, which is never helpful with these things. Small nit, but at the bottom it says for the notarization, it has 2027 instead of 2026. I think that's just a small typo, but it was driving me crazy. So those are my comments at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is our timeline?
Well, I think as soon as we're comfortable with a number to add to this, couple edits, if the board wants to make those edits. I'd bring it back on the January 5th meeting for approval from the board and then start to send it out to the residents and seek signatures. And once we get to 50%, then it locks in. But I think early January to start.
But really sort of a final template, and then when the template is finalized, then we get to the individual forms where the therefore is populated.
Be that.
Pidge.
Know my name, but also frequent flyer. Josh, I know you've been CC'd on some emails between myself and the state regarding the surprise cost increase in the engineering recently, where it went from another additional 14,000 to an additional 50,000 to get the permit submitted. That I questioned the state on this and that the explanation was that to submit the permit, they need a fully complete design plan. Which to me, it's like this big crossroads and it's just fiscally not responsible because we have so much up in the air with what might happen, so. To spend all this money to do this complete plan for something that may never be built or may be built differently because things may change, just seems like ripping money up to me. So I went to the state and said, why can you, I mean, you all have seen the draft plans. They're very technical, very to me, like really explain what's going to happen. They did reply saying they would accept those plans looked good enough, but it does need something called a feasibility analysis, or it needs EFA, engineering feasibility analysis to complete milestone 2 and blah, 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 blah. So, could we get an answer from Andre? He won't communicate with us anymore. He'll only let us go through the town on, is that number of 50,000, could that possibly go down just to get this thing submitted? For me, it's, we want to get these grant funds if we can, but to spend 50,000, an additional 50,000 that may not need to be spent just to get the grant funds, it's a risk. It's just a risk. It's for all of us. It's a risk. So that's the first question or comment. If you could bring up your budget again, if say we do, you get this approved from us and there's an estimated amount and say it ends up being half of that, do we get billed on what the actual costs are or what we've approved for you to bill us?
It would be the actual costs.
Thank you. And then a couple of lines, annual maintenance, 2,000 a year, permit renewal fee. For the Hidden Pines and Mary Drive and other neighborhoods that have stormwater permits, does the town pay for those? Do they pay for maintenance in those?
Yeah.
I just want to point that out.
As we talked about before, but good remind. Yep.
I feel like that's really discriminatory that you cover that for those neighborhoods, but you won't be for us. So I think that's something to consider, that those things should just be.
We're talking about the permit renewal fees,
well, the town pays to
we were paying for the
Hidden
fees.
Pines.
We were paying for the fees in Southfield up until this point too, right? So there's.
Yes, right,
precedent
exactly.
there that
But now you want to put it 100% on, or whatever, 64% on us.
So is it those highlighted?
Yeah, it's those highlighted.
It's certain like annual fees and inspections and maintenance and all those things that are, if it's not a 3-acre site, but there is a stormwater permit, like Hidden Pines or Mary Drive, and there probably are others, forgive me, around town, that those are getting covered for those people. And you're proposing that they would not for us, and that just seems a little bit unfair. Thank you.
And I guess looking at this, so the annual operating fee, I don't know what they are for Hidden Pines and the other one, non-3-acre sites. I think it's a bit higher for the 3-acre sites because it's 160 per acre of impervious. The other fees are probably similar. I actually sort of estimated this recertification on the recertification numbers for the other sites.
Yeah.
But yes, the town does absorb those 100%.
Right. It's just something to think about, that maybe maybe there's a max number for that you say, all right, we will cover this amount because we're covering it for other neighborhoods.
Josh, when you say the annual operating fee is 160 per acre, so what's the 30 there?
Oh, sorry, that's number of years. So
Gotcha.
every year it's 160.
This is over 3 decades.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking it's probably at least a 30-year lifespan. And we're gonna have to keep renewing the permit and staying in compliance, probably longer, honestly.
Yeah.
But couldn't go. So I don't know, I picked 30. If you guys want to go 20, we can go 20. If you want to go 40, we can go 40. But I sort of looked at 30 as sort of the average lifespan of this, thinking that after that time frame, maybe the permit will change, or we might need new structures depending on how things develop.
Well,
So
Go ahead. Yeah.
my name's Nick. Am I understanding that correctly then? So you're building out the fees based on a 30-year time frame, and that would go into the special assessment cost.
Right.
And then, okay, so we're paying beyond then the timing it takes to implement it, and then you've got the 10-year runway, so then we'll be paying for an additional 20 years for the maintenance and ongoing costs.
Yeah, so good question. So I've extrapolated fees out for 30 years, thinking sort of the life of the project, right? Let's say it's 30 years. And looking at, if this was like, if there was a homeowners association, then every year we would split it between the homeowners and the town for that many years going forward. Since it's a situation where the town needs to kind of come up with the assessment at the beginning, I tried to figure out what are the future costs of this that we need to assess. That would get paid back over 10 years, but then there'd be essentially a reserve fund that the town would have to then pay those portion of fees out over 30 years. So the homeowners would only have the 10, the homeowners would have the 10-year repayment and special.
You would pay ahead of time.
You would pay during the 10 years, yes, and the additional 20 years would then be in a reserve fund essentially that the town would use to pay the homeowners portion of those fees going forward.
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, if we all sell our home, we're sitting there paying, we would have paid ahead of time for fees that.
You're not realizing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, the other thing too that I wanted to bring up about that is, what was I just gonna say? Above and beyond, once this assessment, if we were to sign on and approve this as a community, what would be the process for the town to come back to the Southview neighborhoods and the 48 locations for additional money? Currently, there's a formal process in which the town can come to us because of this law that was created for the 3-acre site. But once you've created the contract, if it gets approved, we've approved the 8,000 over a 10-year period. I think some of the questions that were coming up in that documentation had to do with ongoing maintenance, had to do with repairs, what happens if something happened, what's it an act of nature, et cetera. What is the process that the town would then have to try to ask more money for us after this, if you feel that it's necessary? And I guess I asked this the last time. I didn't feel that the town had the ability to come back to us for money. Currently, the town has the ability to because of this 3-acre rule, and it's coming down from the Fed via the state of Vermont coming at us. What does the town have the ability to come back to us and ask for more money? And what is the means by which you would do that?
The special situation that we have now where we can do the special assessment without 100% signatories, man, does that sunset, I guess, is the question, right?
Right, and so one of the things now is there's a vote that goes to 50%, right?
Yep.
So 50% of the 48 sites. If, for example, let's even say that didn't pass. You guys go out to vote and you try to get the rest of the population to vote against us. Yes, that's how I'm feeling. And that didn't pass. Who pays?
I think we all do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
or no one does.
So fast forward, after 10 years, you come back for money, we're gonna say no, go pound sand. That would then go back out to the town for another vote against Southview neighborhoods. And you can obviously see my displeasure with this.
Yeah. I feel your displeasure and I would feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
And I can't not comment. I mean, some people have already said this, the displeasure that I had with the lawyer, and certainly the comment that he made, he thought it was great that we wouldn't have liens on our houses. You know, this all started in a really negative way it was immediately the town against Southview. There was never any working relationship, and I do feel it was because of the way that lawyer postured. And I get it, that's his job. We're paying for him to a certain degree through our taxes for the town. And the guy has just been rude. I don't know how you guys can continue to work with him and have him represent the town with how he treated these 48 homes. I think I want to say shame on you, so maybe I just said that. If the guy continues to be employed by us as a town, I think that that's horrible. But I think that shortly after a lot of these discussions, there was a change in mind. I can't remember the gentleman who's no longer on, but even you, Adam, you're like, holy mackerel, this doesn't feel good. Yeah. So here we are, we might be in a position for all of the reasons that were just shared, that we may want to do this, just to, well, let's use the term, check the box and get it off the, get it out of our way. But like, I think that there should be something written in, just because of how complicated all of this is, that once, if and when we were to sign off on this, draw the line in the sand and be done with it. We don't have a homeowners association. We aren't a collective group that legally that the state should have ever come after us, because the town never completed, from what I understand, the homeowners association, nor did the developer. And so all of this, in my mind, was a little bit of a mistake. And how all of this came to us, because the T's weren't crossed, the I's weren't dotted. So I think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the rest of our community, but if we were to do this and ascribe to what this plan is, cut it off. At that stage of the game, don't continue to come back at us. It's wrong. We're not a homeowners association. Stop treating like us. Stop treating us like one.
Thomas, resident. I would also just tack on to that. If we are approving the special assessment, the town is the sole permittee. We are using the town selected engineer, and they, go with the installation of this unit, where 10 years down the line, we do discover, okay, that didn't do the filtration it was supposed to do, or more money is, going to be required to fix the situation. We didn't select that engineer. We put our faith in the town at that point to say, okay, let's handle this thing. We're willing to cooperate here. And so just the idea of stopping it at 10 years feels none of it feels fair, but that feels like a fair compromise within what is unfair. The other thing that I would just like to say, totally as an aside, but I think it's important to note that Paige and Sarah have done a tremendous job as collectors and distributors of information, but they've also, almost to a fault, steered away from their personal opinions, influencing the presentation of the facts when speaking to and distributing information to the group at large. And I think people would agree with that statement. So I'd like to thank them, but also just put that out there to the board to know that there's not like meetings where people are forming a hive mind. It's like, here's what's happening. We're filling you in on all the work that we've been so kind to do. So.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Bruce Faust. I wanted to ask if this would be the first special tax assessment district in the town of Richmond.
Not since I've been here, you guys.
I'm not aware of another one, but that doesn't mean one never existed.
June has her hand up. She might know.
June, you have something to add?
That I
Insight?
do not know, but I'll let you talk about that first.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. So related to that, this seems very precedent setting. Okay. So when I think about future projects that are going to come down the road for groups of residents, not all the residents, but groups of residents, I'm feeling like you would hopefully create special tax assessment districts for them.
Like the one that we just.
The
$3 million.
Because I think my understanding of your charter is to be fair and equitable to residents. Yay?
Yep. I mean, on the water issue again, that historically has been treated, there's not a special assessment district, but because they do have billing rights, they are functionally, it's the same thing. And I think that the trajectory is to continue that for the moment.
I would just
can't
add
speak to the future.
Public utilities and water sewer are operated under a whole other set of statutes, and it's primarily user fees. So the customers pay based on use. There's a base fee. It's a complicated thing. But it sort of obviates the need for a special assessment district because, and you should know this, if you are in the district and a line goes in front of your house, you have to connect or at least pay. That's how the state statute works. It's not town saying that. Can I ask that we bring up the spreadsheet again? Because based on the comments I heard, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but it almost seemed like for those, they're sort of misaligned a little bit, but the number of years, you're implying that 30 should be 10 and 6 should be 2, if you're looking at a 10-year duration. That's what I heard you say.
Or at bare minimum, the,
Understand the two, certain 10.
yeah,
So 30 becomes 10.
Yep, and 6 divided by 3.
6 is every 5 years.
Got it, yeah. Yeah.
It's the equivalent of 30.
I would say at bare minimum, it does make sense that the, whatever the special assessment term would line up with the
duration
of fees we are charging. I can understand why we started out with the expected life of the system. Seems reasonable from one perspective, but I can see how it would also be reasonable to expect that those two things line up. Yeah.
I mean, another
That's
way,
one approach.
you could do the special assessment payback for 30 years too, if you wanted to. So, but it's up to the board,
Or
however
we
you
can
guys
do
want to do it.
20 and 20.
Yeah.
We can do, there's a lot of options there. I mean, does anyone have any, aside from doing 0 and 0, does anyone?
But if it is a 30, how does that impact our ability to buy and sell? I mean, there's a part of me that obviously wants to just get it over with, and I'm not sorry,
Yeah.
quick to speak up, but what are the challenges? And I'm not the person that knows this. You know, real estate might know better than all of us. Like, what are the impacts of what do we need to be disclosing as homeowners if we go to sell our house if this thing is still on there for another 20 years?
Yeah. I guess I don't have any insights in that. Yeah.
But one scenario, and I'm sorry to like make this even more complicated. Instead of modifying these to be 10 years, do you actually make the payback period 30 years? It relates to your question, but it would drag it out over 30 years and significantly reduce the annual and quarterly payments.
And then if you sell.
That's not with interest though. That's
whatever it turns out.
That would just be, it would basically just take this
So I think-
number and go to 30 years. So then your per quarter fee would go down. And then if you sell your house in 15 years, the next owner would still have some payments. It wouldn't be like you paid for it all in advance. So there's.
But I think the question was more to what is the impact on the sale of that house with having that?
it's not necessarily the sale, it's more the legal aspect. And you know, there was a lot of this when the first numbers were thrown out. I think we were all planning on spending like 30,000. You know, some of us know the rule of 7 in finance where, you know, the value of money doubles every 7 years in the stock market, blah, 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 blah. And I started thinking to myself, holy crap, you just took $250,000 out of all of these people's homes. Now, the $8,000 is a lot less, but you know, dragging that out, if there's no additional interest and you drag that out over 30 years as opposed to 10, that's a heck of a lot more palatable. You take all of that money that wasn't been spent on that, if it's in the market, rule of 7, your total loss isn't nearly as bad. But like, these are the sort of finance questions that as when we first started hearing about this, people were saying, oh yeah, it's the nice neighborhood up on the hill. You're looking at $250,000 out of all of our money that we would have spent, you know, who knows, on education, on who knows. But so the conversation has changed a lot, but I'm always going to be looking at a way to reduce that overall cost, especially with something that we shouldn't have ever been dealing with.
Can I, Paige, can I let June go quick?
Yeah.
June, go ahead.
Thank you. So my question is, and I will say, put it out there that I am not affected by this, but I just think that none of this makes sense, but neither does our government oftentimes. So I'm wondering, because there is a legislative stormwater study group, what happens if they come back and in 2027, when they're due to come back with an answer on this, and they say, yeah, this was a mistake? What happens to those who have invested in this?
That is a very good question. I don't think that is an entirely unlikely scenario either.
It is not entirely unlikely. And because when you talk to legislators now, they'll say, yes, this doesn't seem to make sense. So it feels, and I've written to one of our senators, it just feels like the cart is being put before the horse, and that we're having these conversations, and mostly because there are ARPA funds available. If these ARPA funds weren't available, the town would sort of be at the whim of the state, because there would be no benefit for this group of 48 houses to sign on, because there wouldn't be this grant money available to help reduce the cost. But there is, so now we're in this rush when the state hasn't even figured out what should happen.
Right now, I'm just looking back at the question and answers. That was one of the questions that we had, and we don't know the answer to. So it's a good question, June.
I mean, I guess, can you refresh everyone on what the magnitude of grant money we're talking about just for engineering that's at stake right now? Obviously, there could be further grant money, there could not be, we have no idea, but what's the magnitude of what we're talking about?
So right now, the grant is up to $20,000, or I think it's $19,999 in permit fees. Right now, it looks like we would have $9,141 in permit fees based on the, well, that's what it looks like, and then $30,000 for engineering. So total year of about $40,000 in grant money, assuming we can get everything submitted by the March 1st deadline.
So the state is saying that the fee to submit the permit is only $91.41?
Well, that's what I calculated when I double checked with Terry from the state. He said the initial permit is $860 per acre. So 860 times 10.35 gives me 8901, and there's a permit processing fee of 240. So that total together is the 9141. Based on the numbers that Terry provided, Terry Marcel.
We'll probably come back with correction.
Yeah, I thought for some reason I had it was closer to $19,000 myself, but when I looked at his email, I went, okay, that's the math.
I have seen some about, my understanding is it varies based on the permit application. That you can get covered up to $19,999, but your product may not cost that much.
Right.
For them to process it. But this is the point I was trying to make earlier, that we are rushing into this because we want to secure that money. But to do that, we have to take this risk with the engineer and spend a lot more to get this thing submitted. And we don't, that might be wasted money.
So just real quick, I mean, if you look at the cost based on the assumed numbers that I have, it's a difference of $520 per parcel. So just to try to put the grant money on a personal level. I don't know if that's high or low, but that's what it is. So just to kind of if we don't make the permit, the grant deadline, that's the numbers.
Just a comment about risk. What I understand what's common, at least in the state grant funds, is they grant you money for the front end, and if you don't keep going, they sometimes ask you to pay back the grant funds that they paid out, because that's stranded investment.
Yeah, I've asked them that because, and I went to the Stormwater Utility Committee and testified and asked them that that this money is specifically for engineering and for the permit application. Because it's not tied to construction, if we don't construct it, they can't claw back those grants.
Okay, I will just say I've seen them act differently. But there was another question up there.
Yep, good.
I kind of wanted to elaborate on this, what June brought up is that this whole thing is a fallacy. Going back to when we walked around Southview with Andreas, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember him saying that within these tanks and these construction designs, there were data loggers. And several of these designs have been put in. I've seen some at the Stowe High School. We've got one at MMU. If there is real-time data that these are actually collecting phosphorus, can we get that data? Because that would prove if this is a fallacy or not.
Ask Terry and Neil Conlon.
I'm pretty sure he said there was data to be collected from these tanks. That would prove if this is real or if this is a fallacy, because putting all of these construction things in along 89 and everything else, this is an absolute waste of state money. And I don't think these things are gonna function at all. I have a degree in soils and this makes absolutely no sense to me. So I would love to see some real world data from these units that have been installed to validate moving forward with this in Southfield.
Sarah?
Sorry, I was just looking up the chart of permit fees. This is what I do now, so for meetings. And, Josh, I'm gonna go back to Terry just because on this chart, at least, it's the annual operating expense is $310 an acre, but the initial permit fee per acre is $1,400. So we just might want to double check that the number you got was not for.
Can you send me that link?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you though, cause I thought I had the number higher in my head
Yeah,
too.
I
Yeah.
found it at like
Jim's hands back up.
That's what I thought it was. I went on his email from Friday, and went, okay, I guess that's where we're at, so thank you for double checking that.
Yeah, no problem.
June, do you have something else to add?
Yes, another question. So it was brought up that the engineering fee is $90,000 and that earlier it was stated that it didn't go out to bid. Is that legal? Don't we have to go out to bid over a certain amount?
So we do have a carve out for engineering in our purchasing policy that we can go based on qualifications. So we didn't go out to bid for this one. And it was sort of a bit of a time crunch. We had someone who was, I actually started with them a little bit prior and then stopped. And then when it came back up a year later, we continued to move forward with them.
I'll just say there is a not entirely dissimilar process in state government for what's called pre-qualified vendors. Where you don't put stuff out to bid, you get a statement of work and they say, this is what it's gonna cost. And it's not competitively bid. Whether it's good or bad, I would leave that alone, but.
Well, seeing as they are considered one of the most expensive engineers, I think it's bad. Particularly for the homeowners in Southview, because they have to pay for this $90,000 expense when they had no say in it. And would the town consider taking on more of that expense based on the fact that the town made the decision to use this engineer because they had previously used them? Just a thought.
I guess so, Mike Warner, also from Southview, on this similar matter, if I remember correctly, the construction costs were estimated at 300,000. We have a design fee of 90,000. Have we checked what how that percentage stacks up against this one engineering projects? That seems awful high.
Yes.
It's almost 30% engineering fees.
Paige, go ahead.
My correspondence with Neil Common and Terry Purcell, we feed on it, but he never replies to anything. Neil did say that it was on the higher end.
Gotcha.
And something I did come across in some of my research is like another town putting out to bid. And they had like 4 or 5 firms, and Watershed Consulting was the highest by at least 25% and double than some other ones. I could try to find that. I saw it months ago, but it's in some other town select board meeting. But kind of circling back to why we're here, we are at this crossroads and we all have important decisions to make. I feel that what I would like to see, the changes made to the letter. I don't understand. I don't think we can be co-permitting. It's like, are you gonna list every property? And then what happens if someone sells their house? Do they have to get the new buyer to become on the permit? I think we can't be co-permittees. That's my understanding, but you need to ask an attorney or the attorney. And then I really would like to see the town, because you've put us in a difficult position with this. You started this, you went into executive session, you abandoned the process, you never notified us. I would like you to consider taking on what's a reasonable amount compared to other neighborhoods for some of the fees that you would be paying if this were not a 3-acre site, and taking that off the numbers. And then I don't really care if it's a 10-year or a 20-year or a 30-year. The reason, why HOAs exist, like if you live in a condo or have some common land, is because you get a pot of money for these things. And when you got to replace the roof, it doesn't fall on just whoever owns it at that time. So you're extending out the costs of things. And I see this as an infrastructure project. So it's really difficult that I'm paying for an infrastructure project, but it is what it is, to quote Terry Purcell. So, 30 years, 10 years, whatever, it doesn't really matter. If it's a longer period, then that means, when I sell my home, that new owner is taking on some of the cost of this, and it is infrastructure. It's something that should be borne over time, and especially for people that bought their homes. And this was already passed, and nobody knew about it and inherited this. Those previous owners aren't putting a dime towards it. So those are just some thoughts to think about. And I do believe that going forward with this, that there is gonna be some low interest borrowing power that the town can access through the Clean Water Board for financing this, like low interest loans. And I can find out more about that somehow. But just something to think about.
I guess I understand all your concerns, and I feel a little stuck here because I would honestly like to do what is in the best interest of all the homeowners. And I think one of the main concerns, ignoring all the fumbles of the past with waiting 2 years, is I don't think anyone wants the title of their home encumbered. So we want to prevent that. But part of doing that is kind of making the gamble that we need to do this now and take advantage of grant funds. And that might turn out to be a bad gamble. So I feel a little, I don't think any of you have any more or less information than I do at this point, and I just really don't see a good path forward because all of them seem like they could backfire and bite one or many of us. Sarah, go ahead.
Just to your point, and I don't know the answer to this off the top of my head, and I'm wondering if any of you do. Do you know when the property is supposed to become encumbered? Because I know that the compliance deadline for the construction was pushed out by several years. And so I'm just wondering, like, to the extent people are thinking, can we like kick this down the road a little? Because it's only gonna cost $600 extra a household if we lose the ARPA grant. Maybe we want to just wait and see how stuff plays out at the state level. Like, at what point would this show up on a title search if someone's trying to sell their property, that they're out of compliance with the stormwater permit?
I guess I can't answer that. I would imagine that with you all knowing this is out there, that you would be obligated to disclose it at sale now.
Yeah.
So if there's that issue, I think
that's right. I just don't know. And
Yeah, I
and
don't
think
know
it would be
either.
smart too. Even if you're still currently in compliance, you should still probably disclose it, right? But I'm just wondering, like, at what point is it really going to like
True
legally
encumbrance,
encumber
yeah.
the property in that sense?
It does sound like there's an opportunity to either permit this now and then not construct it for years, or to just not permit it. I don't know what
Right,
the
and wait,
implications of
and then
either of those
maybe
are.
Circle back and do this again no one wants to do this again, but right, like if people say, I'm gonna wait, see if maybe stuff changes at the state level, see if maybe they just get rid of this. And we could just come back and have this conversation again in a year or year and a half, if necessary. If people think it's worth kind of just waiting, and what you're really risking is maybe it's gonna be an extra $600 plus a little more in construction estimates, because those go up over time.
Just a procedural element, it seemed to me that now that I look at this yet again, the consent of special assessment, there's no start date. It has months, but it doesn't have a year, so I just pose that question, do we have a date that it would start, to your question of when do I start paying? It seems to me we might want a start date that the payment for this will begin either on a date certain or a date established by some other temporal milestone.
Completion of construction.
Yeah, something like that. And the other thing I'll say is I feel like we're in the awkward position of both moving too slowly and moving too quickly.
Yeah. Paige, go ahead.
I
and
will
then-
say that at the Stormwater Site Utility Committee meeting that I went to, what's his name? Kevin Burke. When I asked about, if we submitted the application and got the grant and then didn't construct because something changed, could they take the grant back? And they said, no, they would not. He also answered that once we submit the application, we would have a valid permit, meaning like coverage until that timeline when it has to be constructed, which I think is 5 years. So just something to think about, that you would then have an unencumbered property, which is potentially what the lawyer was trying to say, but not very eloquently. So another pro and con that, if we do submit and get the permit, that gives us coverage for 5 years.
I do think we need to move on.
Just based on that, it seems to me that we should have a start date or some language about that. And it seems to me that based on these kind of comments, it should be subsequent to an event like completion of construction, something like that.
I do that to my notes for changes on the consent form. We'll try to bring back by January 5th.
Thank you. Sounds like we almost got this wrangled, huh? No,
See,
we generally have more questions than answers at every meeting. But if anyone has any insights about what we should do for starting, delaying, permit, don't permit, I don't imagine any of us have any answers or more insights than you have. So if you have an opinion, let us know and gladly to take it under advisement.
Yeah, and if at some point, it was mentioned or suggested in the last meeting, should we do a straw poll, and we can do something like that. I mean, I have felt like all of this, we're initiating it. And
Yeah.
I never thought owning a home would include something like this, but we want to work together and figure this out, and that's what's so frustrating. Attorneys, just makes us feel like we've done something wrong, like we're bad, like I'm Judge Judy or something. And it's
yeah,
frustrating. I just don't, I appreciate everyone's empathy, and I get a good vibe from you. But
doesn't pay the special assessment though.
No, I mean, but I know you empathize and think it's wrong, and I think we all appreciate that. I mean, I know there have been blunders along the way where this thing started and stopped, and none of us knew about it, but we appreciate the support since then. I don't think the attorney represents that same kind of caring and.
I guess the one thing I pointed out to everyone in town that has talked to me about it that is not part of the special assessment or any 3-acre site is that at some point, I think we've joked about this, but tongue in cheek, is that it could turn into a 2-acre site or a 1-acre site as the phosphorus or whatever goals
Yes.
Go up. And so how we deal with this now at a town, state, local, all these levels will, whether we fumble it or not, will guide how we do it in the future too. And so if it's not affecting someone right now, there's maybe not a strong chance, but definitely a possibility that the same thing will be imposed on them.
Yeah, well, the thing that came up with the Mary Drive.
Yeah.
If they add that one little section of road, that probably makes it a 3-acre site. That even development for housing that the state desperately needs.
I'll just say, what we probably said repeatedly at the beginning. The 3-acre rule never seemed to me an empirically, scientifically driven method of reducing phosphorus. It was, from my perspective, always an arbitrary method that made it seem like we're doing something. We as a state. And we as a state doing something meant, it seems to me, the legislature finding somebody to put into the crosshairs and say, you guys, and then if you do this, it looks like we did something. Is it the most effective way of reducing phosphorus in the lake? I don't think that was ever discussed or much less proven.
I think that what I would say is that at some point, someone decided, or a group of people decided it was the most politically or bureaucratically
expeditious.
It's their only.
I would say convenient.
It's
But
their
yeah.
only way to enforce it.
It's the only levers they had to pull. So instead of creating new levers, they pulled the imperfect levers they have. We do need
So
to
yeah,
move on.
I don't know what the path forward is, but if you need like a consensus or a straw vote from us.
Thank you for your continued patience and collaboration.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. All your comments about our interactions and are taken seriously. So to be done with 3 acre stuff for 10 seconds, next we have a discussion of the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association for the 3 acre stormwater permit. And then we have a possible executive session.
I'm listening.
We're gonna wait a second.
As we reboot.
Good. I don't want to chime in too much. It's like right in on some of this.
You know how I
stuff.
said
You
that?
know that.
You're like, oh man, that's
Put
where we're
off
at
2
now.
years is gonna cost more. You know,
Especially have a memo for what we're about to discuss there.
Okay, so next we have a discussion of the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association for the 3 acre stormwater permit. You have a synopsis of this?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Initially, or do we wanna?
I think you're probably gonna wanna go right into executive session. We've talked about this a few times. It's about a stormwater maintenance system agreement. So it can go to executive session for sort of discussion and negotiations before it becomes public. That's been the practice the last, I think, 4 times we talked about this though. And invite the representatives from Greystone in. Who do we have tonight? Who's here tonight? You, who's got? It's George and you. Okay, no Kevin tonight?
Yes, no, Kevin.
Okay. That would be Tom and George. Which is in the draft motion.
So I would entertain the motions to enter executive session if that's what
This
we.
Bart, I move to find that premature public knowledge about the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association 3 acre stormwater permit would cause a town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I'll second.
A motion, a
Pardon.
second.
Greg,
Any discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
Adam, I'd like to move that we enter into executive session to discuss the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association 3 acre stormwater permit under the provisions of 1 VSA 3138(1)A of the Vermont statutes, and to invite Town Manager George Arneson and representatives from GERA, Tom Bednar and George Young into the executive session.
I'd like to amend the motion to invite Josh Arneson. You said George.
You're reading ahead on
Sorry.
George Young and said Josh, George.
Go call your brother.
The amended motion is as written, except we're inviting Town Manager Josh Arneson and George Young and Tom Bednar into the.
This is David. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
David, aye.
Okay.
Aye. Next we have a review a review of a draft town center building window mural agreement and license with Radiate Art Space. I think this is something they're supposed to redo. Is it annually, Josh?
Right, so this is an agreement that was put in place in 2020. It was supposed to be redone annually. We never revisited it for 2020. And I reviewed it, and we were looking at the request to. I think there was a pumpkin display request, 2 other artwork requests, and realized that we needed to update this. So I sat down with Judy Bush from Radiate, went through it. Her board is good with these changes. I wanted to see if the select board was okay with these changes, or if you had any other changes you might want to make. Do you want me to view the changes? There's about a dozen or so I could go over.
I think
If
it's
you've
pretty
read it.
straightforward.
Okay.
Having gone through it.
I agreed. I mean, I didn't think any of the changes were there wasn't any real functional change, like any changes to the content, just the scheduling of their annual renewal. So that gives them a little more leeway to get stuff completed in the spring. I think that makes sense. So I didn't have any questions.
Well, if you guys are all generally good with it, I didn't put it as an action item because I thought they still needed time to review it. Turns out they already reviewed it. I'll just bring it back on January 5th as an action item for approval and we can probably move forward.
Take my pen out. Next we have an update on meeting with the Water and Sewer Commission. Sorry, an update on meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission with the housing committees.
I think this is really just on the radar for this group, the select board. And it's obvious to say that any sizable housing development with density wants public water and sewer. They don't want wells and septic and stuff. And we're somewhat constrained by this by geography or topography, on top of which then the sort of case study is getting out into the gateway, which is expensive enough that it then becomes daunting. Like many people think it's a good idea, nobody wants to pay for it. And so that's at least one example. And I think it is a relevant issue because how do you develop without water and sewer? The one newer opportunity we have is through CHIP, which is like TIF, but with more generous terms to repay the cost of building infrastructure. But to pull that off, it's predicated on an increase in the grand list value. And it's got to have enough units to pay for it on top of a willing developer or partner who says, yeah, I'm going to build that many units. And there's either an agreement where they pay back the town. There's also a pathway where the developer can actually do the infrastructure and then get repaid by the tax payments that go to the town. So it's simple in concept, but somewhat complicated in execution. But the core sort of challenge is how do we get water sewer to new locations beyond just the infill? I did sort of a due diligence check with folks at Regional Planning Commission, like, are we missing anything about, funding opportunities? And the response was, no, not really. Like, it's not the era of Clean Water Act where the feds are going to throw a bunch of money at you. And most of the available funds are really targeted at lower income communities or specific kinds of problems in low income communities. So we have met the enemy and he is us, I guess. And that's really just a heads up. I don't think this issue is going to go away.
No.
How can we expand water and sewer? The other issue is just the sort of pro forma. The current water sewer ordinance puts the burden on the developer to do an expansion. And people question, well, why don't the current users pay for it? Well, first, it's what the ordinance says to protect the current users from an increase in rates. So an example, do we want to charge higher rates to the current low-income customers to extend a water sewer line to new customers somewhere else? Which would make sense if the payback from the new customers was more than the cost.
Or equal.
But the number of units required to pay for it without a CHIP or TIF district is daunting. You need a large number of units. Like how many fees can you charge 20 units of housing to repay $2 million of construction?
Infrastructure, yeah.
Like over 70 years, it might work, but in the near term, so that's sort of just the quick overview for what it
seems like there's like a real lost opportunity here where, I mean, ultimately it is beneficial for the town and the tax base and the ratepayers and kind of everyone if we can get any reasonable or large expansion off the ground. But, that first step of coming up with the cash to really get it going, or even a portion of that is the trick. And one thing that always comes to mind, it has since I moved to Richmond, is, we are in the line where the 1% local option tax dies. We don't have it. It's
Yeah.
money that doesn't come, it does come from people in town, but it doesn't. I know so many people that leave and go shop in Williston because it's convenient on the way home from work or whatever. And there's people that come through Richmond and shop on their way to Williston. And so we are literally giving Williston money and all the surrounding towns to fund this stuff. And then when people come here to go mountain biking or to go to Cochrane's, go to restaurants, I mean, not that we should like take their money, but we have the opportunity to leverage that and generate a revenue stream. And just throwing that into the general fund would be a waste because it would kind of artificially deflate our taxes. But if we were to dedicate this, I think it requires a charter change to do the option tax. So it's no small feat. But we can confirm we can sunset it. So we could dedicate it to a specific capital project and then sunset it when the bond or whatever financing was used
Is accomplished.
And so it wouldn't ever get to the point where we kind of, my concern would be, I guess, it's not that I think it's morally wrong, but I think that using a different revenue source like that to artificially lower our taxes would we would just get accustomed to it. And everyone would forget and we'd be in the same boat again with like incrementally lower taxes. But if we dedicate it to a specific infrastructure project, whether it's redoing this building or expanding water and sewer, there's just so many projects we have that we need to do, and that initial chunk of money doesn't exist. I mean, it does exist. I've been here since 2013. So for 12 years, we've been giving up, if you do the math and extrapolate it out, on average in that time without any gains, at 175 to 180,000 bucks a year we've been giving up. So over 20 years, at current interest rates, that's like a $2.5 million bond we're paying for with no money from anyone. So if we were to do that and have some town match and some ratepayer match, like 25%, 25% and 50%, all of a sudden 50%, local option tax money, we're talking like a $4 to $5 million bond we've come up with that benefits everyone. And it's, the people who are paying for it locally are getting as much of a benefit out of it as they're paying in. And people that come here and visit are helping us pay to make our place better, which is something we seem to be giving up a little bit. So I don't know. I've talked to Virginia about this very briefly, and every time I have a chance, I go dig through the state data on tax revenues in Richmond, and like, it's so disorganized. It's hard, but kind of after plugging it, and then if it doesn't exist, for some reason, like all the AI stuff won't pull it up. So you have to like take it and put it in so it has access to it. So
good luck with that.
But it's, so now you can go in and search, and it works out to like just with local option tax, we're between like a $2 and $3 million bond with current rates over 20 or 30 years.
I will say the
doesn't get us-
local options tax was mentioned also at this evening's Water-Sewer Commission meeting as a potential partial funding source for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, which round numbers is how much now, Josh?
It's not $2 or $3 million.
It's like
18 to 20 million.
18 to 20 million.
Yeah, that's stunning. As somebody, I have rental properties on Jericho Road,
How
and
many water and sewer users?
400.
yeah.
Oh,
So what is that? 50?
30.
Yeah.
400.
I mean, I get,
Like 330.
to be,
I
same boat as Greg. I mean, I own the property next to you at 280 or whatever,
It's
Joel Road, and it's like
Yeah.
thinking about building something there, and that having that on the horizon, like fundamentally changes what the cost would be and who you could rent to and what you could build there to really make it work.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to redound to my tenants for sure. I mean, there's not can be done, but only having 300, 400 users just on a $20 million system is breathtaking. It really makes me want to dig into the details of that. But having
have that opportunity.
more, yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm here for. I mean, having more users softens that blow. But like you said, they have to be near in. Now I think the new zoning creates some opportunities near in, right? I mean,
Yes.
So that's a plus. Because honestly, I don't think most people in Richmond want to see a 100-unit project happening.
No.
Certainly not the way they've been happening around here lately, which is put it in a 5-story building, and
Yeah.
So
There's one,
Williston or Burlington.
Virginia, go ahead.
Yes, so I was at that meeting with the Water and Sewer Commission, and this most recent talk that you all have just had sort of indicates the need that really this question should be thought about. I mean, if we're not going to ask the existing customers to pay for the upgrades, we are going to ask them to pay $20 million for the, for the repairs. So anyway, there's a concern there. But what I really wanted to say that was interesting that came out of that meeting is that the superintendent said that they need a new pump for the septic for the south side of the river to pump the septic up to the treatment plant. Somebody told them, some engineer, I guess, that there were 600 possible house sites south of the river, and so that they should be upgrading the pump from serving 100 homes to 600 homes. So my questions are, first of all, where are those 600 sites? And B, what's the plan for getting all of those houses, if they're actually built, to hook up to the system? Because, usually what people do is if there are no lines going past their house, they put in a septic field and a well. So I think there really is a need for some planning to be done here, especially if we're going to ask the current customers. It must be more expensive to put in a 600 home pump than a 100 home pump. We're going to ask the current customers to pay for that. With what assurance that people are actually going to hook up to that when all those 600 homes are built, if they ever are? So, I think planning ahead would be really good. And I understand that it's not easy for the Water Resources Department to be doing this kind of planning. They have enough to do to keep the whole show going. But certainly, if you're planning for something like this with a bigger pump, you got to have a plan, else nobody's going to hook up to it, and then all that effort will be lost. So just my comment. I thought it was an interesting, point that nobody seemed to really find remarkable, except maybe me. So thank you.
Let me try to find the original report on that, Virginia, because I don't remember the number exactly. I'm not sure if 600 is the right number or the wrong number, but the question that the engineers asked when they started to look at this was looking just in the water and sewer district south of the bridge with the new zoning, what's the maximum build out that could happen? If everything was subdivided and everything was built to its maximum capacity, how many more units could you have in there? So planning and zoning looked at that and said, it gave us a maximum number. And I forget what that number was, but then for planning purposes, we went below that because we said, all right, is that really going to build out in the next 20 years? Are we going to have this many 100 units in the water sewer district south of the bridge? So that didn't contemplate any expansion of the district or of the system. It was just what's currently there. Let me look back at those numbers and try it, because I don't know if Steve got them exactly right in that meeting a couple weeks ago. Let me get those numbers for you, and then hopefully that'll help inform that discussion a little bit more.
I think it assumed like the far farm would turn into housing.
Right.
As an example.
And if you look at some of these parcels, like there's a parcel that Gary owns on the corner there.
Yeah.
I think is it 20 units? I think he's trying to put in there. And you look at that and you go, where are they all going to go? But zoning allows for it. And don't quote me if I'm off by a few numbers, but there's a lot of houses that he's contemplating in that area or living units that initially you would think it's never going to fit, but
I think the other interesting, conundrum here is that as we extend water and sewer, we then necessitate different zoning around that water and sewer.
Absolutely.
I mean, and not only necessitate, like legally, that zoning follows water and sewer. So whether we change the zoning or not, the zoning changes the minute you extend the water and sewer by state statute. So once it exists, the maximum density goes to 4 units. Is it 5 units per acre? Whatever. So it's interesting. If we extend water and sewer and we don't change the zoning, we are effectively changing it by extending water and sewer. It changes.
Yeah, but otherwise you're just handing that bill to the public in general down the road, and a real estate developer gets a windfall.
Yeah.
It seems to me if the capacity is created or the way to get to that capacity is created, then people in that sewer district just have to hook up. Yeah,
that's how the rules work. If you're there and a line goes in front of you, you have to hook up. and we've run into this, you have to abandon your septic tank. And not only do you have to abandon it, you have to fill it in. So you can never use it.
So it's interesting if we're gonna be adding units in these areas, to your point about planning, Virginia, it would make sense to have a plan of when and where water and sewer is gonna go, so we avoid creating abandoned septics and added costs. I mean, if we have 10 houses go in with a mound system, we're talking, you know, $300,000 or $400,000 in costs that could be used instead to fund sewer expansions, or $200,000 to fund sewer expansions, and $200,000 spread out to make the housing cheaper so people can afford it. Who knows? But
Yeah, so, and can I just say, you know, what the conversation isn't about right now is how, if you either have to extend the lines if you want to be able to require people to hook up. If you don't extend the lines, if you just put in a bigger pump and you don't expand the lines, then how are you going to require that people hook up to it? Are you going to say if you are in the district, you know, there's a difference between expanding the district and extending the lines. If you're in the district, this we found with the gateway, if you're in the district and there's no lines, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to use it. So it seems like you're either going to have to, when you put the pump in, extend the lines so that they do go past these properties and people will then be able to be required to hook up, or you're going to have some other plan for, you know, making sure that people actually hook up, else why would they hook up?
So I think the district right now is fully served by water and sewer. So any extension would be outside of that district is my understanding.
The district.
Yeah, so I think if there's any more development within the district south of the bridge, they're hooking up to the system because they're right on the line already. Is that?
I think that's broadly speaking.
Broadly speaking, that's true. Now, we know that sewer does not go out to the farm. It stops shy of that. So there are modest extensions.
Yeah.
But from where I sit, this boils down to venture capital. So if the assumption is you build it, they will come. Well, who's going to pay to build it?
I agree completely. I mean, that's kind of the hump I'm talking about, is like, we need to get it. We either need to get it built, or we need to have a developer or project or a series of homeowners, private property owners chomping at the bit to push us to do it. And that doesn't sound like it's going to happen.
The only thing, that's why, you know, I come up with this, where is the seam, is chip funding. But again, that assumes there's a there, that if you extend it, it's to an identifiable development, which will contribute to the grand list to repay the cost of extending the lines to that development.
When I've seen TIF developments done before, those people come in the door together holding hands.
Yeah.
A developer comes and says, I've got 100 acres I want to do something with. I want to use TIF financing to get sewer out there. And the city, or the town, in this case, the town becomes a willing partner.
Yeah. We are in the opposite, where we're trying to drive the
it's difficult to answer Virginia's question about how to upgrade that pump, but considering the maximum density seems unlikely at best. And it wouldn't happen all at once. By the time you actually got to year 20, that pump needs replaced anyhow. And, you know, because they don't last forever.
Right.
But
well, the pump needs to be replaced. So the question is, do we replace it with one that is current capacity, or do we upsize it? And the whole pumping station is being replaced. So
well, let's assume we upsize it, but it doesn't make sense to me to upsize it to
that scale,
a distant future that you think every possible building lot will have the maximum number of units in the next 20 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the price of putting that larger pump in, if it was divided by 650 houses, would be nominal. So yeah, allow for expected growth, not maximum potential growth. As far as the local tax thing, though, I'd want to be very careful with the smaller businesses. I mean, I can see how the lumberyard and grocery, you know, I could see where that would be okay probably, but you know, the card store, the little shops, little more tenuous, I think. So I'd want to tread lightly there.
I think the biggest of a breakout, but it was going to be, almost all of it was going to be rooms and meals stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff at the gas station isn't exempt under groceries. So you end up with a lot of like convenience store kind of stuff, which was actually surprising to me. I thought it was going to be a lot more like you said, like small retail. And so I think it's gonna be mostly rooms and meals, and then a lot of that meals is actually gonna be like the convenience store and the Cumbies, which is what's pretty shocking, but based on the
That is
speed.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, you realize like the people coming in and out all the time are walking out with stuff. And
Like
it's
sheer
nickel and
numbers,
dime,
small
Oh, no,
purposes
that,
just
that
add-
barn is gonna turn big numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm
And
addicted
that,
to
and this
that.
doesn't even take that into.
But
But yeah.
But no, I mean, that's set up to, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna dwarf what was coming out of Washburn's Mobile, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
But,
in a minute.
yeah, as long as that's carefully construed and there's a lot of public education,
Yeah,
because otherwise
exactly.
you're likely to get a kind of
Huge pushback.
just sort of jerk resistance to the idea, but,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there's definitely some more digging to do. It's unfortunate we can't, there's no way to get real info on who is spending that money and whether it's people in town or people visiting. I mean, like I said, it's not like that we want to just grab people's money as they come into town, but people come and,
yeah.
bike and do stuff in town and I mean, take advantage of all we have to offer.
I wonder what our Airbnb density is right now.
Hmm.
I don't know if we're keeping track of it. If there's a local license for Airbnb.
There is no.
No.
But I know it's going on. It's happening in a couple spots in my neighborhood and, a small tax on something like that wouldn't be unreasonable.
Caitlin and I were looking at that a few months ago and we were talking about it and it was actually, I remember the first time I looked at it two or 3 years ago, it was much lower than I thought it would be. And then when I recently was like, yeah, look, it's lower and showed Caitlin, it was not lower than I thought it would be anymore. And it was like 120 distinct Airbnbs in town. No, so a lot of those are listings that are people's like primary home that's a listing if they rent it out for like a week a year. If you go on vacation, you rent it out. But I mean, I think a good portion of those are properties that are dedicated solely to short-term renting.
Yeah.
So the point of this in trying to co-facilitate.
Yeah.
The point of this was to put it on the radar of the select board. I don't think we're gonna get through tonight. How do we move forward with this planning? But I think between the housing committee, water, sewer, select board, planning division, how do we look at this into the future?
Yeah.
In a rational way? The two extremes are assume no growth. The other extreme is build something huge and assume that like hundreds of units will show up. The reality is probably somewhere in between, right?
That would dramatically change the character of the town, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what do we want to? I guess a lot of the real legwork's can be done in committees, but it sounds like broadly speaking, select board, the 4 members that are here, think this is worth exploring in some capacity and having the discussion. Is that accurate?
And I think Virginia's spot on. If we're gonna sort of tote our share of the water on this housing, number of housing units, water and sewer is one of the methods of doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
agree.
key method.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, lots with water and sewer are gonna be able to develop at a slightly greater density, which, if it's compact to the village center, would be a net positive for
Yeah.
everybody involved.
Agreed.
Right.
And, we can't afford to sort of create a far-flung empire for these systems.
Yeah.
But, as long as it's sort of, as we develop the zoning, we keep that in mind. In terms of solving the near-term problem, I don't think we try to solve 100% of that future growth in one move, but, because, $20 million hit or whatever for the sewer plant, and that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah.
And, there's gonna be people who literally get taxed out of their houses if we're not careful, so.
Yep.
Well, one other interesting thing, I think we talked about this briefly earlier, but it ties in is the value that having the the water system provide fire water to the town brings. There's a lot of ways to quantify that. But the biggest one generally is like I know in Waterbury how they quantified it, because similar situation, a water system, we have a lot of the town is served by the fire water provided, but they're not on the water system. So how do you quantify that payment and change of money? And it was, whatever the avoided premiums would be by having the better fire rating, because that's one of the few things that significantly impacts premiums. There's a lot of things that kind of incrementally change it, but having water provided in town is a big change. And then the 50% of the avoided losses, projected losses per year, because you get less tax money, obviously, when there's a loss, because you're not taxing that.
Right,
all
yeah.
So you can do all the math there. And in Richmond, if you did the math, it's in the neighborhood of like hundreds of thousands of dollars, not whatever we pay for it now. So if you-
50-ish.
Yeah, so if you look at
30-ish.
like the total avoided, and that's over the whole town. So that includes the premiums avoided by the people on town water,
Yeah.
having town water for their
Yeah.
fire premiums.
But there isn't a one-to-one
No,
correlation to sewer,
no, true.
right? Which is the more expensive end of that equation.
By a lot.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Just like I guess when I always tell people that, I mean, I don't live in water and sewer, on town water and sewer now, but anytime we have people talking about it and friends and they're like, well, I don't use it. And it's like, well, you do. And so as a town, we avoid, $100,000 or $200,000 a year in premiums on average over the whole town by having that service. So
Yeah.
you can argue about like whether it's worth it or not, but the commonly accepted, method by fire departments and towns to sort that out is that value is something that providing just the water gives the town. So I just try to inform people like the water system is beneficial to everyone, maybe different amounts.
Yeah.
But as we get closer to this cliff for the sewer, I mean, the water and sewer are separate but intimately tied. And so
Yes.
right.
trying to inform everyone in town the benefit.
There are people in town who are convinced, even though they're not in the water and sewer district, in the water and sewer district, that their tax dollars pay for water and sewer. And that's not true. But the water and sewer commission can't bond. The
Yeah,
town
exactly.
can. So the town has to authorize the authority to
we
borrow
kind of- we
money
kind
under
of-
a bond.
We provide
is
them
true.
our bonding.
But the taxpayers don't pay that back. The water and sewer users pay that back. But when the new tank was being designed, we were told, oh, we need this. A tank this size would cover the needs of the water sewer users, but for fire protection, you need a tank that's, I'm making this up, but it's close, 60% bigger. Wait, why are 400 people paying for 60% more tank than they need to provide fire protection for 4,000 people? That's not right.
In surrounding towns.
That's why we initiated the fire protection fee.
Yeah.
So the water and sewer users pay for what they use for the new tank, but that upsize is carried by the town.
Makes sense. Cool. So what is our takeaway?
Yeah, so let's continue that conversation.
I think we should come back to it, maybe let it season a bit and come back to it and say it will look like plausible next steps to contemplate planning for, housing locations and water sewer service.
Right? It's easy to talk about. We have X amount of dollars. We could, and everyone's on board with this 1% option tax. And then you got to build it, and there's a mountain, and there's a rock, and a river, and a floodplain.
Yeah.
Where do you physically build it?
Yeah.
A highway. Yeah.
Oh, we got our 5 minutes out of that.
Yep, so thank you for the conversation. And the Housing Committee is planning to write a letter to the Water Resources Department looking for this extra information. So hopefully you will support them with, having enough time to do it or help them get that information so that we can keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have an update on charge point service fees for the electric vehicle supply equipment. So this is the electric vehicle charger that's in front of the town center that the police cruiser used to use and now is used by members of the community.
Well, it's always open, members of the community.
Has been. It also served a town function.
It did serve a town function.
Not to say that it was only used by the police department.
Do we have use data on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Tons of it. So yeah, this was put in 5 years ago with a grant. It was part of the electric Volkswagen settlement.
Yep.
So I honestly forgot that we had paid or prepaid 5 years of this service plan, and then we got a bill for $1,370 for the annual fee. And I was like, oh my God, we have to pay for the annual fee. I forgot about that. So I did a little digging back in when this first started. The $20,000 fee it was a main fee for this, included the charging station, the annual charging station fees, installation, and an additional bollard to protect them. My recollection was we were trying to put no tax dollar money into this. It was mostly paid for by a grant But as I look back at it, there was a match. We ended up paying about $600. Some of that was staff, like $70. The rest of it was actual cash from the town to help for the match to put this in. So this is actually two things. It's the ChargePoint cloud service and the assurance maintenance and management service. So the cloud service is where we get all of our data, where we set the rates, make sure that we're recouping what we were paying for in electricity. And then the maintenance and management service has actually come in handy over the last 5 years when there's been various damages to the chargers. They come over, they fix them up pretty quick, or they work with Duncan on reprogramming things, and there's no charge for that. So I paid the $1,300 fee, 'cause without it, the station basically goes offline. But as I looked at how do we recoup that, we use about 21,785 kilowatt hours of electricity in the last year. So I extrapolated that out over, spread the $1,300 fee across that projection. We ended up having to add about 0.06 cents per kilowatt hour on top of the 25-cent fee that we already have. So I updated the fee to 31.68 cents, so 0.3168 per kilowatt hour, which does end up being a 25% increase per kilowatt hour from where we had been. But without doing that, we don't cover the fee.
Yeah, we shouldn't be losing money on that proposition.
Yeah.
I drove here in an electric car. I rarely use that charger because it's of the older, slower type.
Oh.
I'd really like to see that upgraded to a level 3 charger or a Tesla supercharger, but that should be self-sustaining.
I agree.
You get the advantages of owning an electric car, but you got to pay to beat it.
Okay, there you go.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, as the guy that drove here in like the huge F-350, I'm not gonna switch back. Yeah,
I could never drive.
It's tough.
Use that truck.
Yeah, it's tough to look at like the, off-peak rates that you could pay like and stuff, and so it kind of hits. This charger happened to hit people who are like renting and stuff, but I mean, ultimately it should stand on its own. We're not going to subsidize it as a town. So
I'd say I'm jealous, but I don't get your fuel bill. I have an 8 kilowatt solar array, so I get my electricity for free.
no, I wouldn't be jealous at all. If I didn't need a truck, I would have like a VW Golf and I would drive around like a normal person and park normally. Great.
Park normally?
Just like not crash into other select board members when I back out, all this fun stuff.
That kind of thing.
Sounds good, Josh. You don't even.
No, unless you objected, I already did it. So I just wanted to make sure that we were being transparent with the fee increase.
Sure. Yeah. Are we locked into with this charger for a certain time frame, or is it ours to do what we want with now, or?
I'm not sure.
To the point of upgrading.
Greg's point, I mean, the charger technology has come a long ways, and so is charging technology on cars. So a true level 3 charger would probably get enough more usage that it would actually could potentially offset.
You'd get a lot of turnovers, because otherwise it takes me 12 hours to charge my car out there. But it's not going to happen while I'm in the library.
But it could while you're in a select board
You
meeting.
could get a decent amount of charge in like half an hour with a new good level 3 charger.
So the key thing
Something
is,
to explore.
what does it cost to do that? And like, what can we charge for it? Will it pay for itself, right?
Yeah.
And there might be more grants out there. I know that there might be more grants to fund that too.
I'm guessing the price of the chargers is coming down over time.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Seems like every time they come down, they invent a newer, faster.
Right, well, that's true. But there
There
are several chargers available out at the barn at the new gas station,
Yeah.
they've provided some extra capacity here in town. I think a better place for them to be would be at the park and ride, but that's more of a state issue, I think.
Yeah.
We
But explored that. I can't remember.
But
what the issue
but at some point that equipment should sunset. I don't know if it's 5 years or 10 years, or we should maybe look ahead a little bit and do some
Have a
planning,
plan in place to.
especially if there's grant money available or any kind of deals,
Yeah, since our energy coordinator might look into that. We just appointed a new one. I think that's where this actually came from. Coordinator. And then there was a grant that they did all the work. They found the
Yeah.
grant, they put the application together.
That's right.
So let me reach out to, getting his name, but our energy coordinator, see if he can get us information.
Jeff Ford's successor.
Jeff,
Awesome.
Ford, the new Jeff, yeah.
Yeah.
The new Jeff, henceforth known as.
Nuevo Jeff.
Next, we have consideration of setting a hearing date to consider amendments to the traffic ordinance. So this is a hearing to review the changes that would allow us to put a four-way stop at the
intersection.
Bridge Street.
Huntington Road, Cochran Road.
THPC.
Yeah.
THPC.
Yeah, that came from the study 2 years ago. They tried to make it small. So yeah, that would add a stop sign to Bridge Street heading south into that intersection, and a Huntington Road heading east into that intersection.
Just to clarify, this wouldn't.
Why not just put in a speed bump?
We're going back there. This wouldn't mandate it, right? It would give us
the
option to add that. Right. So once we put it in, we don't have to maintain this if it goes in, because we're kind of doing this as a trial. If it turns into a nightmare, are we obligated to maintain it?
It's a good question. If it's in the ordinance, you have to have the stop sign there.
I don't think so.
You may not, because you're not going to write anybody a ticket for not stopping at a stop sign that's not there.
A triple negative.
So
change like a shall to a may somewhere in there and have it be optional.
Up to and including 4 stop signs.
Yeah, exactly.
When stop signs are erected at or near the entrance to any intersection in B below, every driver or operator of a motor vehicle shall bring his.
When stop signs are.
When stop signs are installed. So I think you got that out.
So this gives us the option to install stop signs and.
Yeah.
Because the road crew is putting the bases in, right?
They already put them in, yeah.
Yeah, but the idea was to try it for a little bit, and if we go a month in and we hate it, we can just pull them out.
Yeah.
This gives us that option. We don't have to come back for a new
Doesn't seem.
ordinance change. Okay.
I think we're looking for a date, right?
Into.
So
looking for a
if you
date.
do it
Thank you,
for
Brian.
the January 5th meeting, I should be able to get that warned in time for January 5th.
Yeah.
So then I added a couple other things just to sort of clean it up and make it consistent.
Nice.
It seemed like we were using the word intersection at four-way stop signs, so I tried to make that sort of consistent. And then I looked at, I think there's only one other four-way stop sign in town that I can think of. It's up on Southview. And there was actually nothing listed for Southview northbound into the intersection with Joan Ave. So I added that. I knew there was no stop sign at Greystone from looking at this a couple of years ago. So I tried to make it a little, it's probably still not perfect. There's probably still missing stop signs, but it's better than it was.
Better than it was.
A week ago.
Great.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you. January 5th.
January 5th. Boom.
So you need
I think we need a motion.
We need a motion, yeah.
Motion to set that.
I move we set a hearing date to consider amendments to the traffic ordinance on January 5th, 2026.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for letting me
Making
do
progress. Next, we have a review of the draft town meeting warning. Want to pop that up on the screen, Judge? Yeah.
Well, it's 10 o'clock at night. You can rush all you like.
And almost 10:20 actually.
So, the one change from the last time you guys reviewed this was I added Article 2, which is advisory vote. Shall the town of Richmond continue to fund 4th of July fireworks through a line item in the town budget? That was by Australian ballot to fund the fireworks, but the board at the last meeting for the budget made the decision to put $15,000 in the budget, use $7,000 from the reserve that the rated fireworks committee is required to refund with different fundraisers. We still need to fill in the number for the budget vote. Then we've got the town plan, which they're working through. We'll have a couple hearings coming up on that at the select board level. Conservation reserve fund for 1 cent. We always add that every year. And then we've got the appropriations, which are articles 8 through we got 16. And it would be good to start thinking about when do we want to hold, and we can talk about this at the January 6th budget meeting too, but last year we held 2 informative meetings, informational meetings. I think by statute, we have to hold one within 10 days of the vote. So that would be the Monday, March 23rd meeting. We did hold one at the beginning when voting opened in early February to try to catch people early before they started voting to go over the budget and other Australian ballot items, which is really the appropriations as well. So I kind of mirrored what we did last year, just with the new dates. If that works for the board, great. But we don't have to, I just want to start thinking about this and we can talk about it more in future meetings, but we should get to
The
it.
logic behind those 2 dates is great. We have one before early voting, and then we have one within the statutory required 10 days.
Yeah.
So looks good.
We tried to do it on a Saturday last year because we wanted to, maybe catch people who were busy on Mondays or Tuesdays. I don't know what.
Makes sense.
I think we had, 15 people or so on that Saturday. Something
More than I
like
would expect. That's not bad.
I think it wasn't terrible. Yeah, so it was good. And it's recorded, so if anybody wants to watch it
That's right.
anytime during the early voting, they can go ahead and rewatch that. So
Should we get statistics on like how many distinct IP addresses that ever watched the video? No, that's like just
I wonder if MSPTV might have that.
not worth a discussion right now.
No, but I'd be curious to see, yeah. Okay, so generally you guys are liking this, great.
Yeah.
All right,
Great for a draft.
good deal. Thanks, guys.
Next, we have the approval of minutes, purchase orders and warrants. So I guess we can start with the minutes from 12/1/25. So this would be our previous regular select board meeting.
Move to approve minutes of 12/1/25.
This is David, I'll second.
Bart, aye.
I abstain.
David, I.
Adam, I.
I wasn't
We
there.
have the minutes from the 12/8/25 budget meeting. And
Minutes to
also-
approve minutes of 12/8/25.
Second.
Favor.
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Aye. Do we have purchase orders?
No purchase
No
orders.
POs, right?
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve the warrants as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, items for next agenda, this is January 5th meeting.
Public hearing.
Yeah.
3-acre stormwater,
I'm sure we'll have both of them back.
would put both on there, yeah.
Yeah, should, just a question of sequence, since a ton of people show up for that. Should and can we put it at the front end?
Say that, but I like having the people here. It makes it feel like they're gonna say something.
Stick around.
As inconsiderate as that is.
We can put it earlier. I think
Yeah.
part of why I put it a little later the last couple of times was because we had a number of items that I thought were gonna be like 5 minutes of appointments or event
Yeah.
approvals. So to try to get through those and then know we're gonna have longer blocks of conversation rather than put them earlier. But it's up to the board. If you guys want to switch it up for the next meeting, we can.
Maybe we'll, for the new year, give them the,
Give them here at least.
get them
five.
out of here early. I don't know.
Okay,
We have been dragging it out for a while. I know Greystone in particular, they've been
Yeah.
for executive session
Yeah.
at the end of our meetings. I mean, we were all here too, but we did sign up.
Put
for
them
this.
first.
There you go.
okay, well, sure. Let's see, we might have acceptance of water line easements at the next meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a water line project going on that we've got about 22 easements that we need before we get out to bid. So we need the select board to
Oh, to accept.
accept those easements. It should
Have-
be
have,
fairly easy.
Is the paperwork all in to have all of them done, or is?
We are waiting on 3 of the 22. I hope to have them by the 5th, and then in one motion, you can accept them. There's a little bit more work after that, but that'll help keep that project moving.
Great.
Um,
That's not gonna be.
oh, we have the town plan hearing too. That
we do,
could
yes,
actually
that's a
take
big
some
one.
time. So we might want to fix stormwater before town plan,
Stormwater town plan.
and then smaller items after that. Well, we can talk as we get closer, but if
Yeah, I
there's,
mean, a lot can change between those three, so
if there's like 5 things that are like a couple minutes,
we can get them out of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
that's where I feel
Yeah.
bad having the guy that wants to get appointed to the Conservation Commission wait till 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
But it is a big balancing act.
Well, it's a good question. If it requires somebody being here for it, and some of them do and some of them don't, right? The quick ones that require somebody to be here, you should probably put it at the very front end.
That's what I was trying to do, but
Yeah,
then those end
yeah.
up bleeding into like 8:15, like we did tonight, a little bit, cause the appointment of the member took 30 minutes or more at the beginning of the meeting too, so. But yeah, let's make an effort to try to make them a little bit earlier if we can, based on other items, and then there's health plan after that,
Makes sense. What are we? Anyway, what are we estimating for town plan?
I'd say at least an
I think
hour.
Trevor just waited and said he appreciates his appointment not being at the end.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's,
On the
I
chat.
was thinking of you, Trevor.
Yeah,
I don't
that would
think
be,
like that.
that would be a long meeting to wait through just to have a 1 minute appointment.
That's, yeah, so, I think the town plan is gonna take probably at least an hour. I think
Okay.
we've been getting a lot of feedback
Makes
at the
sense.
commission. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be a,
Between
And-
stormwater and that, we have a pretty full meeting already.
it's,
Yeah.
we're gonna add traffic ordinance hearing. So yeah, we've got a few things. We're busy, as it usually is.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh, we do have MMC TV viewing data too. That's great.
Yes, look at this, all these answers.
And more answers than questions. This is
That's the meaning of life. Maybe it'll pop up there for us.
just a mirror. Oh.
It's a Twilight Zone episode.
I'm sure more will pop up, so I have a feeling that this first meeting not going to be a short one.
Aaron, thank you. That's a great answer.
42. That's how many people watched the.
No, that's the meaning of life,
Meaning of
universe,
life.
everything.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
42. Galaxy, come on. Let's get with your sci-fi.
So long and thanks for all the fish.
Speaking of so long, and thanks for all the fish.
We don't have an executive session, but we do need to formally adjourn before we all leave.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.